All right, gentlemen, it's time. We're here. It's the 93rd Academy Awards. Oh, wait, that's right. We're not actually talking about this year's Best Picture nominees. Not quite yet. We're here to do something a little bit different, something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time that hasn't been done yet. I've got a panel of experts here where it's Oscars draft time, people. We're going to be drafting the best and the worst of all of the Best Picture nominees in history. It's going to be an insane event. You guys are not going to want to miss this. Stay tuned. All right, guys, we are here. We are ready to draft overall. So, people, once again, I am Dom, the movie nerd. Welcome back to the, or should I say welcome to the first ever annual Talkin TV Oscars draft. The purpose of tonight is as you guys can see, I have assembled a panel of my esteemed colleagues in order. We are going to be drafting the best and the worst of the Academy Awards. Basically, how this is going to work is all the five of us here are going to throw into a massive pool the 10 movies that we think absolutely deserved the top prize, and the 10 movies that we think are just some of the worst examples of the Academy's just complete aloofness to actual good movies overall. So, the panel that I have assembled here tonight. First off, to my right, Mr. Shawn of Math Teacher Movies, one half of the Guy at the Movies podcast. Shawn, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling reckless. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to pick best pictures.
All right. Oh, I love it. I love the energy already. I love the term, I'm here to pick best pictures. I love it when we put plural adages at the end of singular statements. This is already off to a great start. Next to him, straight from, it's Skajakwina, right? Skajakwina, Canada? Did I get that right?
Oh, no.
Oh, I already got it wrong. Oh, we're already after a great start. Mr. Brandon of Brandocritic, what's going on? Please correct my American idiocy to your Canadian
no, it's okay. It's Vancouver, British Columbia.
It is Vancouver, British Columbia.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. I'm here to make friends, not to pick best picture. No, I'm excited to be here, guys.
This is going to be great. This is already great. Below him, we have a newcomer to the channel.
Yes.
A guy who Chris reached out and said, yes, if you're doing anything Oscars related, get this guy on. And I'm like, perfect. Sounds good, because I wanted as many people on for this as well. First timer, newcomer to the channel, Mr. Shawn of Lost in the Reel. Shawn, welcome to the channel, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I am so excited for this, guys.
Oh, man. You got any controversial picks that you can spoil just yet?
Oh, I'm not going to spoil it, but I definitely do.
All right, excellent. Can't wait. Can't wait to see your choices. And of course, below me, he's been my co-host at times. He will be my co-host at other points. We've been friends. We've been enemies. But overall, he will always be the one and only Professor Pat Huber. Pat, happy to have you here, man.
Hey, Dom, I'm here to ignore the rules and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yes, let's go. I knew there was going to be one person that actually got an 80s one-liner. It would be you. But so, gentlemen, without further ado, we've explained the rules to the audience. You guys know the rules overall already. So, we ready to draft?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's draft. So, first things first, I have got this lovely wheel from WheelDecide.com, sponsored by that, with all of our names on it. So I'm going to spin it, and whoever's name comes up first, we will decide. I will leave it up to you guys as to whether or not you want to pick best or worst to go first, but I'll leave it up to you. Actually, you know what? I'll do this. How about for each person's name that pops up, because I'm making the rules up as I go along. I've never done this before. I don't care. Let's do it that way. So whoever's name comes up first, in this case, you'll pick one from your best of category and one from your worst of category, and then you'll defend it overall. Sound good?
Perfect.
All right, excellent. Let's spin that wheel.
Oh, man.
All right, Pat, starting us off. Pat, what is your choice? So pick one of your best and one of your worst.
Oh, both.
Yes.
All right, I'm just gonna get it started pretty easily here. Let me just scroll down on my list to a little old year, 1939.
Oh boy, we're going for it. We're going
Yeah,
for
let's
it
just
already.
let's
We're
just
starting
start
off.
with
Let's
it.
do it.
Let's just start with Gone with the Wind, as the worst, or a worst pick to win Best Picture. Talk about the year in terms of the competition. It's Stagecoach, Wizard of Oz, my personal favorite, Wuthering Heights, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You know, there's so many movies, and basically the Academy shows, you know, by today's standards, a very controversial movie. You know, probably the was it the best-selling movie of all time? So
Yeah.
maybe that played a part into it. But the you know, writer of 12 Years a Slave makes a valid editorial in the LA Times, where by today's standards, it is definitely looking back insensitive, you know, to slavery, you know, to the Black community because of its depiction of slavery. And so I think in terms of long-term, you know, aging of a movie, Gone with the Wind is historically good, you know, in terms of Hollywood history, but very controversial and you know, really impactful for you know, social issues today. Also, any movie that has a 4-hour runtime and can't quite fit everything it needs to in it, that's got a problem.
So what you're saying is most of the choices for Best Picture should not qualify based on that logic alone, is what you're saying. Because, bro, I was looking through like half of the movies that won Best Picture, and they're half of them range from like 3.5 to 4 hours. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, how do these people? I'm like, we know the Academy doesn't watch half these movies. How the hell do they have time to actually watch this? You know?
So does this mean Marty gets the top spot, coming in at a quick
Yeah,
hour 17?
It might. It very well might. Who knows? All right, so Gone with the Wind is our first official entry for the worst of category. This movie absolutely did not deserve to win Best Picture. And now, Pat, for your second choice from your best of pool, what is your choice?
All right. So for my, I basically paired it. I'm going to say that one of my best of choices is In the Heat of the Night, because this movie directly takes on racial issues. And even though it beats out The Graduate and Bonnie and Clyde, you know, I'm going to say that it's an enjoyable movie. The Graduate, to me, is a fantastic movie. But you know, it's essentially one long montage into this character's life, and it's a very good exercise into montage editing. But the story is very, you know, give or take, in my opinion. Bonnie and Clyde is definitely enjoyable, classic movie as well. But you know, give me Mr. Tibbs anytime.
All right, so we have already two controversial choices already. I would expect nothing less from Pat being the first choice. We have Gone with the Wind in the worst of poll, and we have In the Heat of the Night in the best of poll. I will admit two choices that I was not, well, one choice that I kind of saw coming, another choice that I did not at all see coming, because I think it's very interesting. Pat, I think you're the first person that I've ever heard advocate for a movie besides The Graduate winning for Best Picture in 67. So definitely an interesting choice overall. Any thoughts, gentlemen, on those choices before we move on to our next selector? Shawn, I can tell you were kind of jumping and raring to go there.
Oh man, I absolutely love In the Heat of the Night. This is just perfect because there's so many movies about race, but this was just one of the where Sidney Poitier just comes in and he's just smarter than everyone and more educated, doesn't rub it in the face, isn't arrogant, and is able to just solve the murder under everyone. The big scene that I think of is Rod Steiger and the the millionaire in his garden. The millionaire slaps Sidney Poitier, slaps him back. That was improvised. And so Steiger's reaction is genuine, where he, you know, just absolutely springs up. I would say that I would have loved another Poitier Oscar as opposed to a Steiger Oscar. I get it. Give it to the old guy. That's the move. But oh man, I'm getting chills talking about In the Heat of the Night. I love that movie,
and I think it's ironic too because you got Poitier versus Poitier that year with In the Heat of the Night versus Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. So it's definitely very interesting there. Thank you, Pat, once again for that little tidbit. So unless Shawn or Brandon has anything else to say, we'll be moving on to our next choice overall. But already we're off to a strong start overall. I'm already super pumped with how this is going overall. But of course, before we move on to the next choice, I did also want to shout out a few of the people in the chat. Overall, we have Luke, of course, showing up saying Gladiator, more like glad I never have to watch it again. Don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but okay. We have Man of Movie saying La La Land for number 1 or I Riot. Ooh, you might not be happy with the choice that I have coming up later on this list. Eric Thorpe Reviews commented, Gone with the Wind would be my best. Okay, to each his own. That's the only thing that I have to say. Luke, of course, I'm just going to attempt terrible jokes for every Best Picture I've seen. Look, all I know is your jokes always make me laugh, so I'm down with it. And then Eric's probably, this might be one of the funniest comments I've ever read. Does this mean the Snyder Cut has a shot at Best Picture? It's 4 hours. You know what?
It qualifies for 2021. It's a hell of a narrative.
Could you imagine if it actually gets a nomination?
Oh my
you know how
God.
smug
it'll
the
never
DC
happen,
fans will
but-
be
oh
on the
God,
internet?
I don't even want to think about it. I
No,
literally
it
don't
won't.
even want to think about it. But all right, so moving on. So our next choice after Pat. Oh, come on. I didn't want to go next. I wanted to toss it to somebody else. All right, screw it. I have to go with what the wheel says. All right, so my choice. So Pat started off with worst last time. I'm going to start off with one of my best. And I'm going to start off with a choice that, even though it's a little lower on my list, it is still a choice that is very, very special to me overall, just personally based on my own personal heritage. Even though I am primarily Italian, my grandma's mom was actually a, not Russian, but Belarusian Jew who actually was able to escape from, who was actually able to escape from Belarus literally right before the Russian Revolution started, and actually was able to circumvent right around before the Nazi occupation of Poland began in 1939, which is why my first choice for one of the best films who have ever won Best Picture, easily the first film in which Spielberg won Best Picture and Best Director, and could not be more rightfully so, Schindler's List. Again, another movie, a little bit on the long side, but in my opinion, earns every single minute. It's kind of interesting to me how Spielberg, for the longest time, obviously had, like, the blockbuster stigma, obviously as the guy who made Jaws, and, and obviously Jurassic Park and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Jurassic Park, obviously, which he did in the same year, and E.T. But he always had that flair and knack for drama, obviously, you know, his understanding of character work right there. Oh, and obviously the Indiana Jones trilogy throughout the 80s. Yeah, the guy's made a lot of movies, obviously, to say the least. But the thing about this movie is, this, what I would say, was probably the first movie that was, like, personal to him, and it shows in every conceivable way. It's the best performance that Liam Neeson has ever given. It's so unbelievably poignant how it can kind of, how it can, like, kind of show humanity from, like, the worst possible senses, and like in its portrayal of Nazis in the sense, and kind of how it's kind of treatment of humanity overall, in a sense of where it's like you got the one side who kind of only sees them for profit, but it is unintentionally saving their lives, versus the other side who just casually views them as fodder, you know? And obviously, besides the fact that, obviously, to me, you know, the Holocaust is obviously a very gripping subject matter. It's kind of, obviously, the joke has been made that pretty much, oh, you want to make a movie that's going to win Best Picture? Make it somewhat about the Holocaust. But this is one of the movies that I think absolutely, like, earns its stripes. It's one of the best movies ever made. It's one of my favorite movies ever. Like, I like, it was one of those movies where I'm like, I gotta take a break after I watch this, but I also knew that, like, when I watch it, I'm like, yeah, just, this is, if I don't watch this now, like, I'm never gonna get a chance to watch this again, just because of, like, how it makes me feel a certain way about movies that I just usually don't like to feel, but I had to, and it's one of the best movies ever made, so of course I have to put Schindler's List on there, easily in for the pool. And then for my worst of choice, I'm gonna start off my worst of poll with, I'll say, probably not one of the most controversial choices, let's say, but definitely a choice where I was watching a couple of movies in the past couple of days. I was watching movies that have reportedly been considered some of the worst Best Picture winners ever. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I said it before, even though a movie may not have deserved to win Best Picture, that doesn't necessarily tank it, obviously, from being, you know, a bad movie overall. You know, I still obviously like Forrest Gump a lot, even though it did not at all deserve to win Best Picture. I still enjoy A Beautiful Mind, hokey and ridiculous as that movie gets. And I think it's safe to say that the Academy has garnered a little bit of a reputation as far as movies that, like, kind of, you know, puff them up a little bit and show that, like, hey, we're super self-important, right? Because nothing says self-importance like making a movie about the origin of Hollywood, right? But without a doubt, I will say, and the fact that this past decade had more bad wins than good is just shameful in and of itself. But that is why, to me, The Artist as my first choice for worst of. Good God, like, they're self-indulgent, and then there's this movie. Like, what the fuck? Like, 2011 is already a weird year to begin with, considering the fact that 2011 is, like, the year that started off, like, all the blockbuster franchises that, like, pretty much drove, pun intended, the rest of the 2010s. But, friggin', you mean to tell me that this movie gets in over Moneyball and what's it called? And I mean, now that I think about it, the slate that year is actually not that good. But Moneyball and The Descendants and other movies that weren't nominated, like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I know Midnight in Paris is obviously, you know, not that well looked upon because of Woody and Hugo, which I'm a fan of, even though not a lot of other people. You mean to tell me that The Artist is better than all of those movies? Like, my feelings towards The Artist are kind of similar to The Shape of Water, but, like, at the very least, The Shape of Water is trying to tell, like, a compelling story. What is The Artist about at the end of the day? Like, what is this movie about? And what does it say? Sure, you could have a period piece, and you could have a movie that's, like, a statement on Hollywood. Sure, that's fine. Like, I liked Birdman, obviously, but, like, what is this movie trying to say other than, oh, no, look at how the times are changing, and it's like, you got to adapt or else you'll be phased out of obscurity? Like, if that's not, like, the most pretentious, like, only someone who works within the Hollywood system could actually relate to it, then I don't know what does. And somehow this movie won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for John Dujardin. What the fuck? Just what the fuck is the only thing that I have to say to that. So those are my first two choices overall, Schindler's List and The Artist. Does anybody have anything else to chip in on that, to say the least?
Well, I hate to always cut in first, but you said somehow it won.
Yes.
There's going to be something we're going to deal with in the modern Oscar era, and it's someone that thankfully we don't have to deal with anymore, and it's Harvey Weinstein.
It's just true.
So many of these, and I won't name them because we're going to probably steal a lot of what should be like are going to be our worst Best Picture winners.
Yep.
This guy operated and bullied, and obviously was doing a lot more terrible things, and thankfully he's facing consequences for those. But before that, he was also just like a complete asshole and like the behind the scenes in Hollywood, and just bullied people into voting for stuff and campaigned and finagled and had smear campaigns for other places. So it's unfortunate that we're going to see that quite a few times here, and sometimes we're going to see it for good movies because the guy also had an eye for movies, and there's some good movies up there. Which also he's gone. I'm glad, so glad. But that is just the two sides of the coin there. But that will be a lot of our issues probably with Best Picture.
Yeah, unfortunately. I still think one of my favorite kind of rejection of Weinstein stories, obviously. I mean, famously, everyone knows about the Bong Joon-ho thing with Snowpiercer and how that ended up turning out. Yep. But one of my still favorites is when Disney and the Weinstein Company was in the process of handling the American distribution for the Studio Ghibli movies in the late 90s, and he wanted to play some cuts on Princess Mononoke, and Miyazaki, being the badass that he is, literally sends him a katana sword with a note attached to it saying, "No cuts." That is...
It's amazing.
If that doesn't say Miyazaki in a nutshell, then I don't know what does. So, Brendan, Sean, you guys got anything? Pat, you guys got anything else to add to that before we move on to our next draftee?
You nailed it.
You definitely nailed it. You took two of my choices. So,
oh man,
but we should definitely. 2011 was such a bad year for movies. If you look at the list of films nominated, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. Like, does anyone remember that movie?
I'm chalking that one up only to the fact that was 9/11's 10-year anniversary. That's the only thing that I'm chalking that up to, because that movie got nothing. Like, no precursors going in, and somehow it's nominated for picture and Best Supporting Actor for Max von Sydow. Get the fuck out of here. Like,
these two movies are Dom's like movies to watch on a rainy day. No.
Oh man.
But anyway, it's I don't know anything about The Artist. It just didn't do anything for me. But Moneyball, I think that's where it was at that year.
Yep.
A nice little ditty in it, and I can't get over that song. So it really it's the main reason why I should have been Best Picture.
Yeah, just among many other reasons just going into that movie. What's it called? So Eric Thorpe saying I probably would have given the Ed Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Oh, if only would it be if that movie had gotten more nominations other than Rooney Mara, but I agree with that. He also said that Drive is really good. And then probably my
That was
favorite one,
amazing.
Luke said, I caught the drive pun as well, and it's because of me that Cars 2 came out in 2011. Very clever. If only, but the funniest part is that pun that I made actually was not in reference to either of those movies. So I guess that says something about the amount of car-related movies that came out, because I was actually referencing Fast 5, which was the first Furious movie that came out that year that I saw in theaters. So I just had to throw that out there, obviously, because that's incredible. All right, so we have, in the best category, we have In the Heat of the Night and Schindler's List. In the worst category, we have Gone with the Wind and The Artist. So moving on to the next draftee. Please, God, do not land on another name that's...
Has
please,
gone
God,
already?
do not land on me again. I want to land on someone else, please. So...
I feel like
Hang
if
on.
you land on yourself or you land on the same person again, they can send it off to somebody else.
I'm spinning it again if it lands on the same person. It's got to be at least each person goes around once before
Yeah,
we do
then
that.
you got to drink twice.
Well, in this case,
Then
spin it
again.
again. Probably gonna do this like 4 or 5 more times before it actually. Oh, come on!
Oh,
You just pick somebody.
man.
This feels like it's weighted.
Hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. Here we go. Oh my God! Hold
Yeah,
on. If it keeps
okay.
going, then I'm gonna pick someone. If this
All
does
right,
it
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Hey.
Oh, there we go.
Hey! Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you willed it into existence. All right, Brandon, as our next official draftee. What's your best and what's your worst entry that you're putting in?
Okay, I have a feeling like a lot of people are gonna hate me for these. So I love just Hollywood schmaltz, the sappy love story, the huge scope.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Hold on. You don't know what I'm gonna say.
He's going to pick Mank.
No, I'm
That's
not.
who's gonna pick. Which
No.
hasn't even won yet because the ceremony hasn't even happened yet.
I gave Mank a pretty bad review.
I know, you didn't like
man!
that,
Oh
I didn't like it. So it was funny. I was drunk once at a party, and some girl asked me, why do I like movies? And I'd never even thought of that answer before. And I said, well, it's because movies, and my screenwriting teacher told me this once in film school, a filmmaker is one of the only jobs where you're paid by your customers to be emotionally manipulated.
This
And
is
I'm
true.
like, that's really good.
That is
And
good.
it's like, well, why do you go see an action movie? Because you want to feel excitement. You want to feel the adrenaline. Why do you see a comedy? Because you want to laugh. Why do you see a romance movie? Because you want to like see all the sappy love. Why do you see a horror? Because you want to be scared. There's always an emotion attached to it. And the one movie to me personally that hits almost all of those emotions just to an extreme level is 1995's Braveheart.
Really? Okay. I'll
One of
admit,
my
not the
all-time
choice I was
favorite movies.
thinking.
Neither
Yeah.
man.
What
I
did
was
you
scared
think I
for
was
it for
going
a
to say?
second.
I thought you were
I
going
thought you were going to say
Titanic.
Rocky.
I'll admit, no, I thought he was going Titanic.
Okay,
I was
right.
real worried. I was real
Okay.
worried there. I thought the Celine Dion Canadian connection was going to get to him there.
But yeah, I mean, like, you know, historians, well, quote the movie, historians from England will say I'm a liar. But like, I don't see that movie as historical fact. You know, like it is a legend, right? It is a fantasy. If you put that lens on it, then just from a pure story perspective, I think that has some of the best buildup to any movie ever, right? For you to really get behind a character's cause, Braveheart, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but the events that happen in the first half of that movie, like every time I show someone that movie, I always look to them to see that scene and just their reaction. Then it's always like, oh my God, this is only the first act. It's a 3-hour movie that only feels like 2 hours. The score is phenomenal by James Horner, and that is my favorite. The year I was
Nice.
born, 95.
Excellent. All right. Good choice, honestly. Especially given that, like, for 95, one of the best years for movies, and a really, like, weird selection of lineup. Like, if I'm not mistaken, it's Apollo 13, Babe, The Postman, and Sense and Sensibility for the other 4
Interesting.
choices, which that's a weird lineup. Because how Babe is nominated for Best Picture over movies like Seven or Dead Man Walking or Toy Story, which is okay. Like, that just shows where the Academy's priorities are. And then, Brandon, for your first entry for worst stuff.
I'm going to lose some subscribers here.
Oh
I
dear.
can't wait. Oh, I love it. I love it.
I think The Shape of Water sucks.
Yes! Yes! Oh, I'm
Go,
so
baby,
happy
go,
somebody
baby.
said it.
Oh,
Go, baby,
it is,
go.
It is.
Go, baby, go.
It is the accumulation. Okay, in film school, you have 2 people. The 2 people who are I like Jim Jarmusch, and I'm never going to make a sequel ever because I'm above that. And you have the people, it's like, oh my God, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is the best film ever made. And then it changes every single MCU
And
movie.
they're usually the same person is the worst part.
And it's so you get those two people. The accumulation of just I'm an artist. Look how great I am. Like, I've seen all the bad film school projects. I've made a couple myself. So I can't really, I'm in this category too. But just the pretentiousness. You can put it all into a pot and package it as Shape of Water. That's what that is. And I've never, ever had anyone leave the theater screaming at the screen. One time in Shape of Water, it did. A guy, like a war vet, was like going down the stairs in a not a wheelchair, in crutches. I didn't know I was going to watch a goddamn porno. You said it, man. You said it.
I still remember my reaction after seeing that movie for the first time. I saw it with a friend of mine. Pat, I don't think you ever met her. Her name was Serena. We had a couple of film classes together at Dutchess. And I still remember after we got out, and she was like, what the fuck was that? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, that was a Guillermo del Toro movie? Okay. This narrowly missed my worst of choices, but yeah, I am not a fan of that movie at all. I really freaking despise. And the fact that movie won Best Picture over Get Out and Phantom Thread and Dunkirk, which is also Chris Nolan's first director nomination, is kind of ridiculous. So yeah, that great choices, honestly, for Braveheart and Shape of Water. Love it, absolutely. Some comments. The Upside Down said, "Babe, ... the Pig movie." Yes,
that movie is great.
It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actor for James Cromwell, and I'm pretty sure it got a screenplay nomination as well.
It's so good. It is so good. It really is.
Eric Thorpe Reviews says, I like Titanic, but wouldn't be in my best, but certainly not worst either. Man of Movies also commented, The Shape of Water was such a beautifully crafted film, one of my favorites of the year, but Three Billboards was the best of 2017 Kanye voice. I don't agree with either of those. The best of 2017 was Logan, but that's just me. And then also Blade Runner 2049, also a solid choice for a movie of that year. So does anyone else have any comments on Brandon's choice before we move on and wrap up with the Shawns for this round?
I don't know. I for Shape of Water, I don't think it's as bad as you say, but I agree it's not the best picture of that year. You know, it was an okay movie. You know, weird monster for probably no reason. I don't know.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's just I love Del Toro, and he gave a great speech, and he absolutely deserved it. But yeah, no, definitely not best picture worthy.
It just makes me sad because Pan's Labyrinth is such an incredible film, and he should have won director for like that year. That should have been up for Best Picture, but it was not. And then it's like they felt like they needed to give it to him for Shape of Water. But that movie, I agree with Brandon. It's on my list as well. I think it's all of you. Yeah, it's terrible.
Terrible choice, obviously. And you want to know what's funny? You know who obviously beat out? I mean, Del Toro wasn't nominated, but you know who beat? You know what other person got his Lifetime Achievement Award in 2006 over Del Toro for Pan's Labyrinth, right?
No.
Scorsese
for The Departed. And I love The Departed, but that's what won him Best Picture and Director.
Yeah.
Come on. And I love The Departed.
The Lifetime Achievement Award Oscar is a tricky slope because let's face it, Al Pacino lost for Godfather Part 2.
And then he won for Scent of a Woman and knocked Denzel out.
Denzel then won for Training Day, which is deserved. I love Training Day, but still, it is just something that.
No, but that's the thing. I will say, if I got to pick between Denzel over Training Day and Russell Crowe for A Beautiful Mind, I'm going Denzel every single time. Every single time.
I got
you. He is on another level in that movie overall. So I'm loving that we're tying this around, obviously. So we're going to move on to the Shawns, obviously. And I think, obviously, just for the sake of conserving time, I feel like if you have a choice, obviously, that has already been selected, I would say punt, obviously, since it's kind of already in the pool overall. And then we'll just kind of collaborate at the end overall. So we'll see if Wheel Decide actually decides to, work, since it finally actually ended up on a different person overall. So we only have the Shawns left. So let's see.
We could start a hell of a band with the Shawns.
Right? You could.
Yes.
I'm sure there's some sort of Irish brogue thing already going on.
At the very least, I differentiated because your two's names are spelled differently. So at the very least, that makes it easy.
I was going to get on you first because I thought you just spelled my name wrong.
No. Damn it.
Which one is it closer to? Well, I just rigged that.
That one's closer to Shawn. Hold on, I'll do it one more time.
No.
All right, screw it. Screw the wheel. Shawn, Lost in the Reel. What is your choice? What is your choice?
I'm gonna
Best and worst.
go with best right now, and I'm gonna go with our most recent winner with Parasite.
Nice.
I think it's an incredible film. It's timely, it's edgy, it's meticulously constructed, and it's kind of seeing the Academy do something different. And that's what we've been asking year after year after year, like pick something different, like take a risk. And I think that film is pretty universally loved. And yeah, I just think it was a great choice. But I do love 1917 and Marriage Story and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Some great films that year, but I think Parasite takes the cake. So
yeah.
And then for the worst of the best. I'm also going to go recent again with this. I'm going to go with Green Book.
All right. Getting the recents out of the way.
Yeah, honestly, I'm sorry, but it's up against Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, which is The Favorite, Roma, A Star is Born, Vice, and you pick Green Book? That's my opinion. I didn't hate Green Book, but I definitely think it deserved to not win against all of those films.
Yeah, definitely. Another sad case of just, as Spike said, it was Driving Miss Daisy literally 30 years afterwards.
It really was.
Those similarities, and as somebody who just recently watched Driving Miss Daisy, I can say the similarities of the fact that it happened twice in the span of 30 years is just so unfortunate. It's just so unbelievably unfortunate. So I'm going to read off some comments, but Pat, you actually have an interesting opinion on Parasite. Would you like to share with the rest of the panel?
I think my opinion is basically I thought Jojo Rabbit was the better movie of the year. It kind of hit home for me. I thought it was a very heartwarming story. Used a lot of great film techniques throughout the whole entire film. And it's one of those rare films that earns the dance number at the end. I think it was a superior movie in my opinion. Parasite I actually really enjoyed. I actually enjoyed the best director speech as well. So it's definitely a contender for that year. But I would definitely I have a personal preference for Jojo Rabbit. It just extremely funny, extremely well crafted. What's there not to like about it? So we can argue the fine points, but it just comes down to personal favorite.
Yeah, as somebody who absolutely just was kind of worried about Jojo Rabbit going in, given my thoughts on Ragnarok, I was beyond. I love Jojo Rabbit. It was in my top 5 of the year last year. Again, 2019. Again, wrapped up the decade strong, strong slate of Best Picture nominees overall. Just reading through a couple of the comments. Eric Thorpe says Green Book was enjoyable, but definitely not one of the best. I can agree with that. Man of Movies says Green Book wasn't bad, so same thing. Would have given it to Roma, absolutely. Upside Dan says what Sean said about feeling like they gave it to Guillermo. He said exactly about how they gave Leo the award for The Revenant. I mean, let's face it, everyone knows that The Revenant is Leo's Lifetime Achievement Award. And Eric Thorpe also said my favorite of 2019 would have been either Endgame or Joker. Why did none of those choices surprise me? And then Luke coming in to steal it, saying Parasite. We actually gave it to a foreign film this time. Luke coming in with the hot ones. Coming in with the hot ones. Overall, love it. Yeah, Brian and Sean, you guys have anything to add before we move on?
Well, I think
No, Sean, go.
I think something great about Parasite is just I'm never gonna really forget last year's Oscars. I'm never gonna really forget Jane Fonda looking up with the excitement and the passion, with the just a bit of a pause, saying Parasite, and it went over all of these typical awards films, which would have been worthy, but typical awards films, and I just really loved that it was just something very different that I was rooting for that got there. I love that, they shut down the lights on one of the producers and they went to Jane Fonda to conclude the show. And the whole crowd, led by Tom Hanks, we're just saying, no, rise. And I think there's something to it where it's okay, Best Picture should just go to what the best film is constructively, da. But Parasite kind of reached everybody. And for a foreign film to do that was huge. It passed the parent test for me. My parents liked it. And, my parents have an okay taste and stuff like that, but they wouldn't really be digging a foreign film, and they liked it. And that parent test is really big for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those points 100%. Brandon, what did you have to say about that?
Yeah, I actually love Green Book. I actually when it won, I went, yes! which you might just hate me for that. But I will say that I wish that this movie right here, 1917, came out the year before. This would beat Green Book, and then Parasite would not beat 1917 to win. Because I have Parasite in one of my worst, only because it beat 1917, which I think is one of the best films I've ever seen in my life. But I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie. Parasite is a phenomenal movie, but I think this is even more phenomenal. So it's only the competition that it's beating. So I have nothing bad to say about Parasite, the film. It is.
Oh man, the only thing that
I think it says volumes about last year's
It
picks.
does.
Absolutely.
Little Women was also another fantastic movie.
Fantastic.
And
Ford versus Ferrari. Like Ford
Speaking
versus
of
Ferrari is like a 90s winner for sure. Like it was textbook 90s Oscar movie.
Yep.
You know, but it's, you know, 2020 at this point. So of course it's
pretty much absolutely. Yeah. All obvious words. Brandon, the only thing I have to say to that is I agree with you 100% on 1917, but at the end of the day, as beautiful as that movie, it is still a war movie. It is still a war movie, and those movies are like the 10 types of movies that, like, if you make this, guaranteed Best Picture nomination. That's the only thing that I have to say about that. Versus Parasite, which, can you even
Something
classify
new.
any sort of genre on that movie? Like, when was the last time a non-genre based, like, just the fact that, again, like, say what you will about The Shape of Water, but The Shape of Water was, for lack of a better word, a genre movie. But and then the Academy is actually like finally be dipping into genre a little bit more into these last couple of years. But like the fact that Parasite just comes in and just blows everyone out of the water as far as its genre or its lack of genre, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
so
I totally get it. Like I have nothing bad to say about Parasite either. Like it is a phenomenal movie. Like
absolutely. So
no problem.
Moving on, our last draftee for this first round. The Shawn SEAN math teacher movies. What is your first for best and worst entries so far?
So I'm going to go with worst, and I'm surprised this one lasted so long. Now, it's also been known as the cliched worst, and so therefore there's been a backlash to the backlash, I think, and people are starting to defend this 2005 movie.
Oh God, there are actually people who defend it.
No,
I've always loved it.
No, see, there's people that are like, it's not that bad or something like that. That's what they're doing now. And I think there's a few problems with Crash. There's no real resolution to me, except that racism's around and you can't stop it. And that's it. And, you know, at the time, it was during a moment where there's a bunch of stories and they link was very interesting.
And very popular.
And I think there's just like very problematic things. I don't think it has much of a message, except for Matt Dillon is the redeeming character after he molested a woman on the road, but then saved her. And I know that's maybe like an exploration of his dark. No, I don't. No, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing. What the hell am I doing? No, this movie sucks. I mean, honestly,
I'm like, where are we going with this?
I don't know. I try to justify, like, I try to do that when I'm mean to something. I try to like be like,
well, you know, maybe it's gonna.
I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Whew, this one.
Oh man, I was worried for a second there. I'm like, I
was worried. I scared myself.
Same movie, right?
I was like, oh God.
I'm like, God damn.
I think that the reason this movie won also is probably part of the problem. This movie won because there was a lot of old people in the Academy at the time, and I guess there still is, you know, by mathematical standards. And at the time, it was a lot more homophobic. And I'm not saying Brokeback Mountain is even better. I actually like Munich the best, and I would have wanted Munich to win. But I think there was a lot of people that started to go against Brokeback Mountain for a lot of the wrong reasons. And so that part of it got to me a little bit. And it's just not until a while ago I realized that. I will say, when this movie came out and like the Oscars were going, I was rooting for Crash. That's how I felt, because I was sort of in that little thing where I was like, hey, it's kind of cool. There's a bunch of intersecting stories. Oh, it turns out he's his brother. I just spoiled it. Good. And like that part of, like, you know, me just says it does work at a moment, and then I don't know. I just really that one bummed me out. Crash, without doubt. That was a weird year in general. I think.
It was.
Yeah, 2005, weird year. Obviously, again, like the fact that Brokeback Mountain comes out had a chance to obviously be the moment of like, yes, we're actually like showing some progressives of the stories that we're recognizing, and instead they go with Crash, which again, like, I I don't hate it as a movie. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's certainly not the best movie I've ever seen. I think there are still some good performances in there. And I'll say that Paul Haggis's intentions, although extremely misguided, are not exactly like at their worst. But like, he made the movie simply because his car got jacked one day in LA. Like, that's your motivation for making the ultimate defining movie about race? Like, what?
Oh boy.
What the hell?
It's like the Love Actually to Christmas as Crashes to racism.
Kind of. Like, very strange. In order to mimic the Zemo meme, kind of a little out of line. But yeah, you're totally right. Overall. Oh, man. What's it called? Other Sean, Pat, you guys have anything to add on the Crash conversation before we move on to Sean's best?
Yeah, I don't hate Crash at all, but that is such a weird year. But when you're the director of the film, Paul Haggis said, "Yeah, that definitely did not deserve to win." Like, that's pretty bad. Like, he's like shitting on his own movie. He did, yes. He straight up said that it did not deserve to win.
Oh, that's incredible. That might be the
so.
best thing that we've gotten all night, just on the Talkin TV podcast in general, that we actually had a movie, a Best Picture winner's own director disavow it of its Best Picture credibility.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just being humble, though. Like, he's not saying, like, oh, shit, my movie sucked. Like, you know? It's just like, oh, these movies are, like, you know, Munich, Brokeback Mountain are phenomenal.
Oh, man.
I think it's more of a humble thing rather than like, oh, my film is fucking dog shit.
Right, and also, I think he also realizes its faults as well, that it hasn't necessarily aged well. So I think the fact that he came forward and said that, I think that was pretty cool of him.
Overall, yeah. Pat, you got anything to add on the Crash?
The only thing I have to add is there's only one movie named Crash, in my opinion, and it was directed by David Cronenberg. And it's about car crashes and you know,
that film,
entanglement of bodies, and it's crazy, but it's a fantastic film.
Yes, absolutely.
Somehow easier to watch.
Yeah, somehow. Go figure.
If you like James Dean, you'll like the reference.
Oh, that's terrible.
Wow.
That was dark.
Yeah, it's a fantastic scene, and that's the only reason why I'm promoting it.
Canceled.
Oh, man. So Luke said the weather forecast for tomorrow here in Latvia is rain, man. Wow. Okay. Eric Thorpe, the best movie from 2005 is obviously Batman Begins. Again, not surprised by that overall. Upside Dan says, I saw Crash a while ago, but I don't remember much about it. Good. Even what you remember, I promise, is not worth remembering. And then Eric Thorpe also said, literally, it's one of those movies, Nomadland. Haha. When? Why is the Nomadland trash already started? What is going on with that? All right, so now, Sean, your best choice.
Well, shit, I kind of want to pick Nomadland.
Yeah, right.
No.
Preemptively pick Nomadland.
Oh, that's too good.
My best choice is going to be one where I've been reading the comments, which is always a great thing to do.
Always.
I'm going to go to the private chat section of the StreamYard so I don't see what's about to be said about me. And listen, with this one, and this was a tricky year for me because I truly, madly, deeply, to quote Savage Garden, loved La La Land. It was a great movie. It was a fun movie. It was a colorful movie. But we're going to look back on Moonlight in a very long amount of time, and we're going to see it as one of the best. Like, I'm telling you, this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, now I'm reading the comments. I'm reading the comments. I will say something about like Moonlight is it's beautifully made. It's wonderfully made. Now here's the thing. It's artsy fartsy, which a Best Picture winner shouldn't be artsy fartsy, but I don't know. There's something about this one that reaches the human spirit, that tells a story in 3 different levels. And I mean, it really just like feels beautifully made for me. And with granted, he also got his win, so it's cool. But the performance of Mahershala Ali, which sometimes they get the performance awards right. Like, man. Yeah. And he just drives the rest of the film. He should have been Best Actor because that character stays with him the whole time, man. Just like Hannibal Lecter. I just compared that character to Hannibal Lecter. That's probably good Lord, what's wrong with me?
Wildly different criminal professions and amount of empathy, but still.
Oh man, I really love this one. I get into arguments with my folks about this one because they love La La Land, and I'm like, guys, I'm with you. I love La La Land. It's a blast. It really is. But like, this is something that like really we're gonna remember a while back. But yeah, that's my Moonlight. Say my piece.
Oh, man. Shawn, the only thing I have to say is fuck you for stealing my choice. I really desperately wanted to draft this one. I really, really desperately wanted to draft this one. Oh, it's been 5 years since I saw this movie in theaters, and this is still like one of the most visually impactful like theater-going experiences of my life. I rewatched this movie 3 more times after I saw it in theaters, and I was beyond excited. It sucked that it had to win Best Picture in the manner that it did, because now its win will forever be associated with that tragic screw-up, but at the very least, it still did get the award that it deserved, and Mahershala, absolutely, you're right, wins it. I don't agree that he should have been lead based on the screen time argument.
No, I don't actually think that.
I know, but no, I agree with everything that you said.
Yeah.
Obviously, again, any thoughts before any thoughts as we go around before we begin round 2 of the draft?
Yeah, I just think Moonlight, it's amazing for all of the reasons that you said, Shawn. But I also think it's when the Academy started to realize, like, we need to reassess our outlook on films and, you know, what it means to be a Best Picture winner. And I think that's the year that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat, I don't think I've ever actually gotten a lot of your thoughts on Moonlight overall.
Yeah, Dom, there's a reason for that. I haven't seen it.
Oh, well, that'll do it. That'll do it.
It's apparently it's one that should be on my list.
Yes, absolutely. It is beyond incredible. Brandon, you got anything to say about Moonlight?
I haven't seen it yet, so that's gonna be a first-time reaction.
There you go.
Jeez.
So we've got 2 people.
Let's go, boys. Come on.
All right. Hey, maybe we'll need to do a first-time watch for the movie's 5-year anniversary, specifically with the 5 of us, because it is. Oh man, that movie made me feel things that I've never felt in a movie before. Eric Thorpe commented, "Dang, I need to see Moonlight. I love me some Mahershala. He should have gotten an Emmy for True Detective season 3. Difficult because that year's Best Actor lineup for the Emmys that year was really, really tricky." Luke, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel with these jokes. Feel like a sinking ship over here. There you go.
I know what he's doing there.
Yep. So, Brady, this was a little bit of a long one, but I was with Shawn to witness him walk out of the room when La La Land was announced as winner. The shock and excitement that came when he and the rest of us realized Moonlight actually won. Crazy. I love that. I'm so mad because I actually missed the moment on TV because I turned off the TV right when that happened and went home to my friend's house and didn't realize it had won until afterwards. And then Eric says, so like Return of the King is going to be in your best, Shawn. No spoilers. No spoilers. That's all I have to say. No spoilers. So, guys, we are starting over fresh just to keep us up with the recap of the draft as we have each drafted our first choice. So, for the best of, we have Pat's choice, In the Heat of the Night, my choice, Schindler's List, Brandon's choice, Braveheart, Shawn, Lost in the Reel's choice, Parasite, and Shawn Math Teacher Movie's choice, Moonlight. And for the worst, we have Pat's choice, Gone with the Wind, my choice, The Artist, Brandon's choice, The Shape of Water, Shawn Lost in the Reel's choice, Green Book, and Shawn Math Teacher Movie's choice, Crash overall. So, gentlemen, are we ready to get into the real nitty-gritty? Round 2. Let's bring it. I'm going to bring back up the wheel in order to kick it off. Hopefully, it actually goes with some variety this time. Although, like the Academy, I'm not that confident in its decision-making. Spin. Come on. Oh, I do not want to go next. I'm spinning again. I don't want to go next.
I can't do that.
It's round 2.
All right, I guess I have to go next then.
No, I'll
Go Dom, then
Shawn. You already went, Shawn.
Dom, then Shawn.
Steal all your
All right, that'll work.
Dom, then
All right.
Shawn.
So, oh man. All right, so I picked best first last time, so I'm gonna go with worst this time. I'm gonna go with the original Green Book. I'm going with Driving Miss Daisy. This movie is bad. Well, okay. You know what? I shouldn't say that. It's not that this movie is bad per se, because I'm a sucker for like sappy, overly sentimental movies, and as problematic as this movie is, I do legitimately enjoy the relationship and the chemistry that Jessica Tandy and Morgan Freeman have, and I do think that Morgan Freeman does actually give a good performance, but man, is this movie problematic on so many different levels. Like, again, just the fact that it is so obviously of its time, and it is so obviously trying to play things in the safest way possible, and in a way contributing to more of the problems that would erupt both with filmmaking and obviously just with race relations in general. And the fact that we obviously saw it repeated a full 30 years later with Green Book when Driving Miss Daisy, when it wasn't even nominated. Do the Right Thing. Obviously, it was ridiculous. But you mean to tell me that this movie beat out Born on the 4th of July, Dead Poets Society, Crimes and Misdemeanors, and My Left Foot? You mean to tell me that this movie is better than all of those? Like, what?
Not
Was
to
Field
mention
of
Do the
Dreams in
Right
there?
Thing, even though it wasn't nominated.
And it
But-
wasn't right. And Do the Right Thing wasn't nominated. No, for all those reasons, no. Fuck that.
No.
Yeah, I hate the fact that even though Jessica Tandy is a complete, I'll use the word, she is a complete and absolute asshole to Morgan Freeman throughout the entire first half of that movie for no reason at all, other than the fact that she's just a grouchy old woman. Like, oh my god, whoever decided to make this movie, I'm just like, ugh, no. Driving Miss Daisy. That's my selection for worst. I got it out of the way.
Yeah.
And then with my selection for best, oof. Oh man, I got a lot to pick from. But you know what? I'll say it. I'll be that guy. Look, we all know the 80s is probably one of the worst decades overall for Best Picture amongst many others, mostly because the 80s, again, was the first shift into major genre, obviously, and genre we all know is the thing that the Academy hates very, very much. So, but my choice, because one of the few times that they actually got it right in all the best ways, and again, another very long entry, but well worth it, is Amadeus. I went into this movie and I'm like, wait, this is the Mozart movie with F. Murray Abraham? Like, what? What is this movie going to be? And I fucking loved it. Oh my god, I loved every single minute of this goddamn movie overall. I was blown away by the fact that for a Mozart movie, Mozart is not doesn't have that much screen time, but like doesn't let's just say it's portrayed in a completely different light than I was expecting. Obviously, with Tom Hulse portraying him as more of like the crazy mad genius who is like a very immature for his age, is kind of going around, and the relationship that develops between him and Salieri's progressive jealousy of his genius overall, and eventually causing events that end up leading to Mozart's death overall. I was beyond surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie. I thought it's one of the best biopics I've ever seen. I think it absolutely earned every single minute of its 3-hour runtime. I thought that kind of its take on passion towards certain things and jealousy and the driving, like some of my favorite movies ever are relationships between relationships between characters in movies, obviously. And this is one of the best, obviously. It's one of the few movies to get double Best Actor nominations, which again you could probably count on one hand the amount of times that's happened. Obviously, with F. Murray Abraham famously winning over Tom Hulse, but it's more than well deserved. Obviously, it's also one of the few movies that actually makes the narrative structure of having it be told by one person, obviously. And having it cut back and forth between the present and the past, obviously, as far as the narrative structure, and actually having that work, and actually having that be really, really fascinating, obviously, overall. This is a movie that I went in, and it's always, to me, one of the best things, which is it's a surprise overall, obviously. So that's my choice for worst. So we got Driving Miss Daisy and Amadeus for the next choice. And the only thing that I'll say is, before we move on to the next choice, is that, Brandon, in order to address what you said, yes, you are right. In order to kind of limit down on time, I think what we're going to do is some of the choices that have already been made, we'll probably go like 2 or 3 more rounds. And then once we kind of like have an overall selection of everything, because again, a lot of choices, like I said, are pretty much going to be shared between us. That's how we'll pretty much vote on the poll overall. So we'll probably have I'll say probably 15 movies in each category, and then we'll probably just end up eliminating 5, and then we'll have it. So those are my choices overall: Driving Miss Daisy and and Amadeus. Anybody have any thoughts that they want to chime in with? Obviously, before we move on to the chat.
It beat Field of Dreams. How dare you?
Oh.
I love Field of Dreams.
Baseball.
That's a tough
I do too.
It is. I know. It is a tough one. I've never seen Field of Dreams though,
It's a
nor
great
would I
film.
consider myself the biggest baseball movie fan overall.
Yeah. So if they remake Field of Dreams, is it if you build it, they'll zoom to it?
I would assume so.
If you build it, they'll charge a fortune.
That too, obviously. You'll have to send your Venmo in order to get your ticket, obviously. Some comments overall. Some people commenting on Rocky. Rocky took me 3 days to watch last year. I couldn't get into it. How the hell does it take you 3 days to watch Rocky?
It's a 2-hour movie. You put it on for 2 hours, and no matter if you like it or not, it finishes.
Yeah.
I know what he's saying, though.
Eric Thorpe would be in his worst. Wow. Okay, really unloaded the hot takes here. I don't think it deserved Best Picture that year, but damn, one of the worst. Okay. Also, a couple people saying not a fan of A Star Is Born. Well, it's a good thing Star Is Born did not win, but I do agree. Again, I'm also not a fan of that movie. And Luke, given Into the Spider-Verse, wasn't nominated. And also he Really enjoyed Green Book, but that was early Luke reviews days. Now I'd say A Star is Born. And then he also rewatched Titanic recently for its sinking anniversary. Overall, oh man. Oh, these puns. These puns are going to kill us. These puns. Oh man. Oh man. I feel like we all need shots for that. I feel like Shawn is drinking progressively for all of us here.
I'm drinking
both
for
Shawns. Both Shawns. This case. All right, so that is round 2. All right, so Shawn, moving on. Your draft round 2 picks for best and worst.
Okay, so for my I like to do the worst first. Oh yeah, I got this one. Here we go.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
I got 2 that I really like, but I'm going to go with this one because I think one of the modern American classics is The Social Network.
Yes.
And so this was the moment for David Fincher to get his Oscar. This was the moment for that to win Best Picture. And nope, a stuttering royal came into the frame and went right in there, and The King's Speech won. This is a tough one, man. Yeah. And this is another one where, like, even when it came out, when that was happening, I was kind of like, oh, I kind of like The King's Speech. It's a little, like, jaunty little thing. And it does have its little bitty charm. And I don't like people saying, well, it was incredibly low stakes. Why is that really that important and stuff like it? There's a lot of movies with low stakes, not a lot of important. Like, okay, like, that's fine. I just think that this movie compared to The Social Network, man, that's a tough one because The Social Network has aged beautifully, and The King's Speech has aged like meat. And it's one of those. It just bums me out. And then, of course, this led to the success of Tom Hooper winning a Best Director Oscar, which led to him making Les Miserables, which some people liked, most people thought was boring. Then it was The Danish Girl, which set back the transgender movement several decades. And then finally, he directed Cats. They did. I gotta say it. I gotta bring it up. And so that's my issue with, The King's Speech. Yeah. When it comes to my best, well, I did a recent, so I want to do a more classic one. And I'm going to do a more unexpected classic one. And that is The Best Years of Our Lives.
Yes.
This movie is a beautiful look at the treatment of veterans. It comes out in 1946, I think. Like, if I'm getting the year right, I believe it's not. Oh wait, I literally have it written here. It comes out. This is it. Oh yeah, 1946. I had it right. Trust your instincts. 1940. Oh, you said there. 1946, and it's just after the war, and it's just these 3 veterans coming back. One of them older, not knowing what to do with his place in life. One of them younger, trying to deal with what is PTSD. Like 1946, and they're talking about PTSD, which is just like miraculous. It's just amazing that that's actually like happening, and they're not exactly giving it that name, but they're showing that these people are suffering. And then there is someone who is disabled, and how he handles that. That actor won the Oscar. I hate myself for not remembering his name right now, but he is actually a disabled actor, and he was like someone who was big with the rights there. It's truly a beautifully made film. I believe it's William Wyler. There's just so many shots that are just captivating. So many moments that are great. This is one that not a lot of people have seen, except for big fans of the classics, but I recommend taking a look at this one. It's really beautiful.
Wow, Pat, I'm getting some major deja vu to our conversation that we had the other day, obviously.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. The veteran who's in it definitely did a fantastic job. There is one scene where it's clear that he struggled as an actor, but if you can ignore that scene, the movie is pretty beautiful. Essentially, I'm
alluding the script sitting on the bed next to him.
Yeah, there's basically the emotional highlight. Like, he had to read from the script, and it's clear. To me, I can't get past it, but actually, I do get past it. When I watch that film, I typically just like close my eyes and I try to picture him not reading the script, and it usually works for me. But other than that, I agree that the movie is fantastic and worth watching. Completely.
All right, excellent. I would contribute more, but unfortunately, there's only so many movies from the 1940s. Again, just watch Casablanca for the first time ever
Oh,
last
wow.
night. So yeah,
Buddy.
overall,
That's a good one.
Luke once again referenced one of my favorite collective events shared between you and me, Brando. Inception would be like word. Hope Dom and Brando remember that watch along where we didn't talk about Inception at all. That's one of my favorite watch alongs that we did. Upside Dan. I never watched the King's Speech. Well, after watching it, I wish that I never watched it because Shawn, in order to bounce off your point off the King's Speech, it wasn't just that it beat The Social Network, which again, that alone is a travesty of itself. It's the fact that it topped Social Network, Black Swan, The Fighter, Inception, Toy Story 3, Winter's Bone, True Grit, The Kids Are All Right. Literally every movie that was nominated that year was better than The King's Speech.
Yep.
And like, you want to talk about that definition? I'm like, bro, there are a lot of Weinstein wins that were bought out that pissed me off, but that one is
That one's the
there.
worst. One of the worst,
is up there as far as some of the worst ones go. And then, before we obviously move on to the next choice, we've got Eric Thorpe commenting, can we all agree the movie that deserves the Best Picture that didn't get it is The Dark Knight? Well, considering that The Dark Knight not getting nominated for Best Picture would literally cost them to change the amount of movies that were eligible for Best Picture, I'd say it made a pretty definitive impact overall on the Academy. What's it called? And then Man of Movies says Toy Story 3 was the best film of 2010. Don't at me. It's up there. It's certainly up there, but it does not top Social Network. So I'm going to ignore the wheel for now because the wheel is proven to be problematic. And let's go with Pat. What is your round 2 choice for best and worst?
There's so many things to talk about, and it's I'm just gonna go with it. It's best, something that the Academy got right is An American in Paris, specifically over A Streetcar Named Desire, which I think would be a lot of people's picks. But Streetcar Named Desire, I've read the play, I've seen it performed, and Brando is fantastic in that movie. But I feel like in the 50s, there's certain things that you could not specifically show in movies. And so I feel like that movie is a little bit neutered by today's standards. And so I'm glad that it didn't quite win the Oscar, even though it's great performances all around. But An American in Paris is a complete movie. And if you're interested in an entire story that basically builds up to support like a 20+ minute dance sequence, which is phenomenal, it is Hollywood magic at its finest. It's everything is built. It's for this fantastic dance sequence.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've famously said I'm not a musicals fan that much, but I've certainly have heard the incredible things that go into this movie, which unfortunately I have not seen. Hopefully, one of somebody else on this panel has seen it, so they can talk about it. I'm guessing it's Shawn, because just based on the way that he reacted to it.
I mean, just talking about like someone like Gene Kelly. I mean, man, the guy could act and sometimes only acted, but then the dancing he was doing, and you're right, that dance sequence at the end is kind of like makes the movie worth it. I'm a pretty big fan of the movie. I like the movie quite a bit, but that final sequence is like unbelievable, like a perfect ending, truly.
Yes, absolutely. Brandon, Shawn, anything to add there?
No, I'm good.
Understandably so. And then Pat, your next choice for worst, since you have it attributed with worst, is Gone with the Wind, so this should be interesting. All
right. So basically, I'm not going to waste my pick on trashing Forrest Gump, but I very well could. I'm just going to move on to 1950, All About Eve versus Sunset Boulevard.
Yes.
This is something that's really difficult because these are two fantastic movies. They're two very slow-paced, methodical movies that work on so many different layers, and I love them both. And it's hard for me to say, I kind of wanted Sunset Boulevard. I think that's my better film. And I know it's a film school classic and everything, and it's kind of hammered into you usually when in your film programs. But like it works on so many layers. It kind of fits that mold of Hollywood history. And it's sometimes the best Hollywood movies are the ones that really speak to the myth. And Sunset Boulevard takes it to the next level. And I really think that it should have won a Best Picture.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
Completely agree.
I love Sunset Boulevard. I think that is one of the best movies ever made. I've never seen all of that, Eve. I remember briefly that in Feud, Betty and Joan, Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange argued about it, but they both could agree that Gloria Swanson should have won Best Actress for that movie. And again, like, you just want to talk about, like, the irony of, like, those types of situations where you have Gloria Swanson playing where it is a solid part of that story, the fact that she is a faded Hollywood star who missed her shot and as a result has been, like, kind of left behind by the system, is now kind of, like, devolved into madness because of it. Like, what a thing it would have been for them to award that movie what it deserved. Just like how different a choice that would have been for the Oscars, but once again, playing into the typical.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, All About Eve and Sunset Boulevard is the Godzilla versus Kong of Best Picture. It just, quite frankly, they're
Yes.
you're either on one side or the other, and I think Sunset Boulevard is Kong, which I chose, in that movie as well. So
Sunset Boulevard bows to no one.
Yes.
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
Completely agree.
Indeed, yeah. So speaking of bowing to no one, so of course, you know who else bows to no one? That is the chat overall, which has been just on a roll right now. Eric Thorpe commented, Casablanca is okay, but I remember the first time watching it was immediately after Gone with the Wind, and it was underwhelming in comparison for me. Interesting. Very interesting. And then he also says, Jonathan, you're going to take that Forrest Gump jab overall. I'm waiting on the Forrest Gump jabs to start overall. So moving on, we got 2 more people in this round before we move on to round 3 of the draft. So moving on to the second of the Shawns, Lost in the Reel. What is your next choice for best?
I'm very happy.
and worst?
I'm very happy I can do this one. Best, 100%. It's one of my favorite films of all time. Someone gave it up in the chat. But it's The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
You stole mine.
I was waiting. Someone was going to put it in.
It deserves it.
I love this film. I think it's, I did want it to win, Two Towers and Fellowship. I wanted it to win those years as well. But I think once they gave it, it won the 11 Oscars. I just think it's an incredible film, and 100% it deserved it. I don't really, and also that year we have, Seabiscuit, Master and Commander. I don't know if that was the best year. I love Lost in Translation though.
Oof. So I was about to say, Pat, you want to contribute there with the Master and Commander?
Personally, myself, the only thing I'm going to say is I would pick The Better of Two Evils.
Yeah, baby. The better of two weirs.
The better of two weirs, obviously. And then Shawn, your worst of choice.
Oh, I'm going to go with 2009's The Hurt Locker.
Really? For worst?
Yes.
Interesting.
I don't like this film actually at all. That people might hate me. That's a hot take. But it was an exciting year because there's 2 sci-fi films that were nominated for Best Picture. And I know people, crap on Avatar, but it was an experience seeing that film in theaters. And then we have District 9. And then also Inglourious Bastards that year as well. I think if you take those 3 films, it's like, wow, those we'll remember, throughout the film history. And then The Hurt Locker, it's like, does anyone remember that movie anymore? I don't know. Do
you not understand our veterans?
Interesting.
Sorry.
I was about to say, wait a minute, you're not American. How does that work?
Well, that's how you know when you're in a Canadian airport and an American airport.
Yep.
We'd like to stop your day to thank our veterans for their service.
Yep.
And if you are a veteran, then you can go ahead in front of the line at Burger King. Go right ahead.
Well, you know what? And that is one of the many, many reasons why Canada is better than the U.S. in so many different ways.
Yep.
Hey, nothing against the military. Nothing against the military.
But Shawn, real quick, the only thing that I have to say to that is, so you are the one person that I think I've heard that goes Cameron over Bigelow that year. Which I feel like all of us should know. The reasoning behind that that's so interesting is the fact that obviously how that came around to bite is that Cameron actually divorced Catherine Bigelow in '91 for Linda Hamilton, and then Bigelow ends up winning picture and director over him in that same year on Avatar, which was the biggest movie of all time at that point.
I love that happened for Catherine Bigelow. It's a big old slap in the face, but I still think, Avatar, we will remember that movie throughout history. The Hurt Locker, I just don't see it being remembered.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, I'm not going to say I blatantly disagree with you, but it's just 09 is a tough choice. There's a lot of great movies that year, obviously. But yeah, Shawn, what were you going to say?
Like I will give it to you that Inglorious Bastards is probably the one I'd like to see win, but
Yeah.
I think what Hurt Locker did, well, you know what? I'll walk that back a second. I think Bigelow gets director, and then maybe Bastards gets picture, because I just think that was directed so well. Because I was full blown sweating, and it was cold.
It's funny. It brings me back to an anecdote that Tarantino brought up on one of the Rewatchables podcasts that he was on, and he talked about like the 2 times that he was up against Bigelow between 09 and 12. Obviously, first with Hurt Locker versus Bastards, and then the second time with with Zero Dark 30 versus Django. And the second time, unfortunately, none of them were nominated for director, which is just a travesty in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because the 2012 Best Director race, I'm not a fan of at all. But Tarantino even admits that as much as he was rooting and hoping for Bastards, everyone knew Bigelow was going to get it that year. Everyone knew. He said that when it came to Zero Dark 30 versus Django, that's when it became a little bit more ambiguous. But at least with Hurt Locker versus Bastards, everyone knew that was
Cameron didn't know.
Cameron didn't know.
That dude was ready to grab that trophy.
Well, Cameron was still riding high off of his whole King of the World thing 12 years earlier. So there was that whole thing. So, last choice for the draft, obviously. And Brandon, I hate to do this to you, but I do unfortunately have to pee real quick, but I'll make sure I make it back real quick. So, Brandon, as the last one for round 2, what are your best and worst choices? And I will be right back in order to put them up in the draft.
Okay, perfect. So, well, first of all, I mean, I was going to say Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I think that's a great choice. You know, I just watched 10 Commandments recently, and I can, like, that's an epic. And I realized that we use the word epic too much because people use it as awesome. You know, it's like, oh my God, Black Panther was epic. Or like, you know, oh, Fast and the Furious 6 was epic. It's like, no, it's awesome, sure. Yeah. But like, I was trying to think of movies that were released nowadays or within the last 20 years that like kind of hit that same level of epicness, like of 10 Commandments, Ben-Hur, Cleopatra. I think Return of the King is the closest we've ever gotten back to that in terms of epicness. Endgame, I don't consider. Is awesome, but it's not epic. Anyway, so I'll go with my favorites. I'll go Gladiator. Same reason why I chose Braveheart. You know, it's just like the score. I'm a big music guy. Like I did 6 years of jazz, 6 years of concert band. So a great score is definitely up there for me. So Hans Zimmer, I thought, did an amazing job with that score. Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix was phenomenal in that movie. I think when he's like, "Am I merciful?" I think that's just great. I don't know why I did the rock and roll sign, but I don't know. Gladiator, same thing. Schmaltzy, like I'm gonna find my family one day. I don't know. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So Gladiator, my favorite. I'm surprised no one said this yet for worst. I'll go Shakespeare in Love because how does Shakespeare in Love not be okay? Like Shakespeare in Love is it's a fine movie. Weinstein. Yeah, Weinstein. It's a fine movie. All the worst choices are gonna have Weinstein in common. But like, who the hell talks about Shakespeare in Love anymore? No one. Saving Private Ryan is like widely considered to be one of the greatest war films ever made. And like I was way too young to see it in the theater, but I remember my father telling me that like he went in and there was a ton of veterans right beside him, and as soon as and then the door came down, they all left. Like they were all sweating. They're like, I can't do it. And it was the first time that war was really portrayed on screen. And you know, the guy's guts are hanging out like, Mama. It's so powerful. So powerful. And if you guys get it in 4K, it's probably the best looking movie I've ever seen in 4K. Nice. But Shakespeare in Love, it's just okay. And like there's Anna Karenina, there's oh man, I'm just blanking. There's a lot of like those period pieces that win. Atonement. Yeah, I was gonna say Atonement.
I love Atonement.
I was so bored.
You and everyone else that actually watched that movie.
But like, you know, Shakespeare in Love is not a bad movie, but it's not a phenomenal movie. And I think Saving Private Ryan is a phenomenal movie. So best, I'll go Gladiator. And worst, Shakespeare in Love.
Yes, absolutely. Could not agree with your sentiments on that more. I think that of all the egregious Weinstein bought out wins that have happened, it's definitely the King's Speech is definitely up there, but I think it's safe to say Shakespeare in Love is the worst. Also, again, obviously for the travesty of Saving Private Ryan, but also for beating out the Thin Red Line, movies also like American History X that weren't even nominated. 98,
Yeah.
pretty underrated year when it came to like some of like the kind of lower key movies overall. Turn it to the chat for a little bit. Eric Thorpe agrees Shakespeare in Love in for worst. Upside Down says he likes Gladiator a lot. Brando's review on the Ten Commandments actually made him want to watch that. Interesting. And also from Eric Thorpe says no Fast and Furious movie is epic, which
Right.
I
Dom,
will staunchly disagree with you on that.
Dom, when you were away, I was talking about Sean's pick for Return of the King, and I said like epic. I watched Ten Commandments again. That is an epic movie, and I think that word is overused because now it is just it's the same as awesome, right? Like, oh, Space Jam is epic. No, it's not. It's not, okay? You can say it's awesome if you want, but it's not epic. You know,
I'm going to go ahead and put this out there, but Nomadland, epic?
No.
Ooh,
Not even close. Not even close.
I love it, and it certainly has
good.
a grand.
Yes, it's good.
It certainly has a grand scale view, but no, it is not epic overall. You know,
No way.
I will say
Snyder Cut was not epic. I'm sorry.
No,
Just because it's
definitely
long
not.
doesn't mean
Overall,
it's not
definitely
epic.
not. No. So we have the round 2 choices overall for the entries into the draft. For the best, we have my choice, Amadeus. We have Sean Math Teacher Movies choice, The Best Years of Our Lives. We have Pat's choice, and American in Paris. We have Sean Lost in the Reels choice with Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. And we have Brandon's choice with Gladiator. And for worst, we have my choice with Driving Miss Daisy, Sean Math Teacher Movies with The King's Speech, Pat with All About Eve, Sean
agree with
Lost
that.
in the
Holy
Reel,
crap.
quite controversially, for The Hurt Locker, and Brandon for Shakespeare in Love. Obviously. So we're probably going to go, I'd say, we'll definitely do after this round. We'll start to start to determine whether or not we want to keep going, obviously, afterwards. But I say that no more than 2 more rounds, then we'll probably be done, and then we'll be ready to do the combined overall picks. So we didn't get through all of our choices, but I think it's safe to say, again, we've covered like a majority of the bad. This has already been excellent and so much fun overall. So I'm going to bring up the wheel once more. We'll see if we actually get someone different. We'll see. I'm hoping and praying. No promises, though. So, for round 3 of the draft, are we ready, people?
Oh, is it me or?
I'm gonna take your silence as a yes. So I'm spinning the wheel.
It's you.
It is.
It is
you.
you again. All right, Sean. Once again, twice in a row. So, what is your next pick for round 3 for best and worst?
Let me start with worst, and this is probably not only on my worst list, but also on Elaine Bennis's worst list from Seinfeld. It is The English Patient.
Yes.
Okay.
The English Patient.
Boring.
I'd say, boring. It's got that wide scope kind of deal. It's, working with something there. It did not reach me at all. But this will be my first one that I'm choosing because I'm pissed off that it beat something else. And we all know what it beat.
Yep.
We all know what it beat. Let's get into it. Some Fargo, baby. And hey, they made up for it with not a makeup Oscar for the Coens, but a deserved Oscar, in my opinion, for No Country for Old Men. But still, they deserve it for this. The writing, the picture, the direction. This is just like one of those movies that is just like the whole thing is a beautiful art piece. And then also it is a captivating crime drama with, a little bit of humanity peppered in. Now, if you notice, this whole time, I haven't talked at all about The English Patient. Case in point.
Yep.
And show me the money.
Yep. And Jerry Maguire.
Yes.
Yep.
Love a little Jerry Maguire.
Yep. And that should tell you everything that you need to know about The English Patient. I've never seen this movie. I have no desire to ever watch this movie. It sounds long.
No.
It sounds boring. And Anthony Minghella, I know his son, Max Minghella, was also in The Social Network, ironically enough. And Anthony Minghella has directed some absolutely incredible movies. But English Patient, a movie where Ray Fiennes spends a majority of the time burned to a crisp half the time, like, no. Just not my cup of tea. I'm sorry, overall. And then, Sean, your best of choice.
Oh, my best of. Oh, this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare.
Why, did we already pick all the rest of your choices?
No. It's worse. I have too many. You should pick them all. Let's see. Let's go with it. I'm just gonna go with it. And you just saw it. And someone says they're just liking this movie because it's a classic or just because it's old. But when you truly break down this movie, it is really well done. And I'm talking about Casablanca. I'm talking about Casablanca. This movie, you think, oh yeah, it's just this like, romance kind of captivating thing because you see that on the screen, you see that on the poster. It is so much more than that. It is a love triangle just before, like, I believe, like, this is like right around, released in 1943, so right when World War II is hitting. This one, and you have the setting with the the crime and the intrigue with Claude Rains' character, Humphrey Bogart's character, Ingrid Bergman, and then of course Victor Laszlo. Oh, I can't remember the actor's name, but just truly this beautiful amount of actors, just absolute fun. When you really get down to this one, it's broken down beautifully. I truly love Casablanca.
Yes, great choice. Obviously, again, I literally just watched the movie for the first time last night. And I watched it too recently. I needed to let it sit and marinate before I really got into my best of choices. But it is certainly, again, there was a reason why this movie is a classic. I just wanted to cut to a few of the comments first. What's it called? Eric Thorpe. No Country is awesome. Not sure if it's in my best. It might be. Also saying that the Snyder Cut was epic. All right, just whatever. Whatever. We get it. We know.
Yeah, the original Suicide
movie.
Squad was epic too.
Oh dear.
Oh God. Yes.
Hey, we were having fun.
I don't even know if that works as a joke. Is the problem?
No. Let's be nice.
I think I gotta go. I'm sorry.
An epic pile.
Overall, any thoughts? Obviously, any ads, quibbles with English Patient in Casablanca?
I think those are fantastic choices all around.
Yes,
Mhm.
both best and worst, definitely. All right, so moving on. The next person to add their entry for round 3 of the Oscars Best and Worst Drive. I just have to say also that for the first time that I'm ever doing something like that, this is going really well overall. So thank you guys, obviously, for being such great sports. Obviously,
Now the wheel's gonna break.
Yeah, wheel's probably gonna break. Swear to God, if it's me, Pat, or Sean. Oh, that works out nicely. Brandon. Nice. All right, Brandon. So you actually got to go a little bit sooner this time around. So your round 3 choices for best and worst, what are they?
Okay. So again, I don't actually know the general consensus of this movie anymore. American Beauty. I'm going with that for my best.
Interesting. All right.
People say it's pretentious. I actually think that I don't think it's that pretentious at all. We studied this movie in film school. Like that's like the film that we picked apart. We picked apart scene after scene after scene, all the different symbolisms, all the different metaphors and everything. And there's a lot there, but I find it so accessible that people who normally don't get into the whole artsy fartsy thing where it's like, oh, what does the red door mean? And what does this mean? What does that mean? It's very accessible. And I understand that it might be a bit hard for people to watch a movie where Kevin Spacey falls in love with a teenage girl, but the movie does a very good job at actually making you care about this character, which is very hard to do. So I'm picking American Beauty as my best. Now for my worst, I'm going to say this: all the ones that you guys have said, I have on my worst list a lot. But I haven't actually seen this one, but I'm still picking it. Oh. I'm sure Annie Hall is a good movie. I'm sure Annie Hall is a great movie. But you cannot deny that Star Wars changed the world. Not just changed cinema, but Star Wars changed the world. I'm sure Annie Hall is a great film, and I'm using this as a disclaimer to say that I still haven't seen it, so I know it's a bit of a cop-out. But again, I haven't seen all of the Best Picture nominees. I'm going with Annie Hall only because of the cultural significance. I don't hear many people talk about Annie Hall at all. Star Wars is everywhere. And it was, Star Wars, the first Star Wars is one of my favorite films of all time. So that's my answer.
It's a really, really tricky situation because almost 9 out of 10 times, I agree, this is Star Wars, obviously. Not to mention that this is also Spielberg's first Best Director nomination. Spielberg famously was not nominated for Best Director for Jaws, and this was his first Best Director nomination for Close Encounters, which is already insane to begin with. But the problem here is, again, you're talking about the cultural significance of Star Wars, which I agree with. But, and again, Star Wars the original is a landmark, but Annie Hall, there's an argument to be made that that's undoubtedly the best Woody Allen movie ever made. And
again, I haven't seen
one
it.
of the best movies of the 70s. So
right?
again,
So that
like I said,
can't say.
I understand where you're coming from as far as that goes, but it is a tough situation overall. Maybe Pat, as the actual professor in this instance, can add something of merit here.
I think the year 1977. Just skip it. No, I'm
Thanks,
joking.
Professor.
This is
No,
why
I
we
think
have
both
Pat here,
movies are
ladies and
good.
gentlemen.
Listen, it's Star Wars is weird because I've been a Star Trek fan pretty much my whole life. So like, Star Wars is Star Wars. It's pretty good. It's action packed. It's fun. I do agree that it kind of eclipses Woody Allen in at least 2021.
Yeah, to say the
You know,
least.
Star Wars is everywhere, and so in terms of longevity, Woody Allen will sort of be like maybe the king of art house, and people will definitely watch his movies and study his movies and enjoy his movies. But in terms of like pop culture and being out there and being everywhere, Star Wars has got that advantage.
Mm-hmm.
What's pretty beautiful about this is we're talking about, for Best Picture, a comedy versus a sci-fi movie.
That is true.
Yeah,
And so this is sort
That
of
is
like,
true.
you know,
It's
hurrah to
exciting.
1977 that those were the two that were kind of, I don't know exactly what two were like battling out at that Oscar race. I was only 5 years old. But like those two were like, you know, just kind of headbutting probably, or at least they are now. And it's kind of wonderful because neither of those genres ever make it into the Oscars.
Right.
And so it's kind of cool to see that happening here.
Yeah, not to mention, again, Close Encounters, another sci-fi based
Sci-fi.
movie overall. So very interesting choices there overall. So I'm not even going to bother with the wheel this time. I think I'm going to retire the wheel.
But no
for tonight.
hate for American Beauty?
Yeah,
No one...
I'm shocked, obviously. So far,
okay.
only a lot of love for American Beauty, which, again, is interesting just given the spacey of it all, obviously. And I'll say that him falling in love with a
Yeah,
teenage
yeah,
girl is probably the most unrealistic thing about that movie, given, obviously, his, stance, let's say, in real life, to say the
50%
least. But,
correct.
yeah.
Brendan, I'm so happy you picked that movie because I was afraid to, because I
yeah.
know how it hasn't aged well, I guess, but
To
I
say
think
the
it's a
least.
fantastic film.
Right.
Still.
Yeah.
That one goes
so-
up and down for me. I feel like just some of the, like, I don't know, there's parts of it that I think are absolutely exceptional. And I'm like, damn. And this is also, that one was revolutionary, truly.
Right.
Mhm.
And then there's other parts where I'm like, I don't know, you're kind of putting your head up your own ass. But like,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
as a whole, I do enjoy the watch, without a doubt.
I definitely also was a first-time outing from Sam Mendes, obviously, who just last year had 1917 and directed the two biggest Bond movies ever, obviously. And also first-time screenplay from playwright Alan Ball, who would go on to create two of my favorite HBO shows, 6 Feet Under and True Blood.
True Blood.
Man of movies, just in order to comment on that. So Brandon's two choices were American Beauty for best and Annie Hall for worst. So moving on, we're going to go down to the second Shawn Lost in the Reel. Round 3, your choices for best and worst.
Oh, this is hard. Well, okay, you guys will kill me for that one.
You already did Hurt Locker.
You got
Go,
to
baby.
be honest.
I think you
Gotta be
got to do
honest.
it now. I think you made your mark as far as that goes.
I know shit. I'm gonna go with 12 Years a Slave.
For best.
And I know that that's a hard year. You guys were just talking about Atonement, not liking it. I actually really like Atonement. But there's also Juno, There Will Be Blood, which is an incredible film, in my opinion. Michael Clayton. But No Country for Old Men.
No
I
Country
think.
for Old Men. I'm sorry. Wait, I thought you said 12 Years a Slave.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Wait, sorry. What am I talking about here?
Yeah, I was about to
You're
say,
just
like,
listening
what
to a bunch
choice
of
we going with?
movies.
Yeah, right. You just started listening to 07. I'm like, wait,
I like the
12 Years a
Muppets,
Slave was
Sesame
2013.
Street.
Wrong
We
here,
could
wrong
do a
here.
bunch of choices. I'm going to do that now.
Yeah, I was
So-
gonna say we're just throwing movies at the wall. Sure, let's go.
Sorry. Let's go. That'll be one of my other choices, but let's keep going with No Country for Old Men, if
All
that's
right.
okay.
Got it.
This film, I think, is one of the few times we were kind of talking about, their lifetime achievement awards. I think this is one of the few times that it was actually worthy, and I think this film will stand the test of time, definitely. So I love that film.
Yeah, definitely, especially since it was the back and forth between that and the Coens and Paul Thomas Anderson, obviously,
Yep.
for like one of the only times that he was rightfully recognized, obviously, for his work. But it's funny because even though I personally like There Will Be Blood more, No Country to me is still like a masterpiece of a film.
Yep.
I absolutely
You
think
couldn't
deserved
lose.
There was literally no losing in 07, which is like one of the top 5 best years for movies like ever.
So good.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, Michael Clayton rocked.
Yeah.
I mean, if Michael Clayton won, I would have been maybe that's a little bit dropped. But no, I would have been. I love that movie.
I love that movie too.
Don't go back on that. Michael Clayton's awesome. What are you talking
It
about?
is so
Michael
good.
Clayton's incredible. Yeah, no country for old men. Solid choice though. Any other what's it called? Any other selections, obviously, or inputs there before we move on to Sean's choice for worst for this round? All right, I think it's safe to say people like No Country for Old Men. Yeah, Upside Down, he too loves No Country for Old Men. And then go based off your first choice, Eric said Wolf of Wall Street should have won in 2013. Also, Saving Mr. Banks deserved a nomination. I agree with you on one of those things. That's the only thing that I will say overall. And then Eric also said that he's seen a bit of True Blood. It reminded him too much of Twilight. Are you kidding me? How dare you, sir? True Blood kicks Twilight out of the fucking park. That one actually had vampires like die in the way that they actually are meant to overall. I love that. I love Sean's face there. I just love it. I will admit, True Blood is complete guilty pleasure watching.
It is.
It is absolutely guilty pleasure watching. All right, and Sean, your choice for worst for this round.
Woo. I also might get hate for this one. I don't know. Dances with Wolves.
Why would you get hate for that? That's like widely recognized as being one of the worst.
Okay, thank God. Goodfellas, like what? Like how did that lose? What happened here? I don't know. Did the Academy love Kevin Costner? Or like
Yes,
have
is the
this
answer to that.
undying
Yes.
love for him? That movie has not aged well at all. I just recently watched it maybe a couple of months ago, and I'm just like, how did this happen? So yeah, definitely the worst for me.
I just had to throw up those comments. Yeah, no, I agree with everything. It's another in a long line of white savior movies. And while the movie
Yes.
does indeed have some beautiful parts, it's like Kevin Costner, really? And that's what you're going to give it up to? And like everyone's widely recognized, yeah, it should have been Goodfellas. And the other travesty obviously is, again, I know everyone hates Godfather 3, and obviously it doesn't hold up a candlestick. But I think that a lot of people can agree on the fact that it is batshit bonkers insane that Pacino was not nominated for his performance in Godfather 3 that year.
It's terrible.
But he's nominated for supporting actor for Dick Tracy. Like, what?
That's
What?
that I stick with.
That's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. I think it's a
man.
travesty. Godfather 3 didn't win.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there he goes.
Okay.
Give it
Yeah, I was
1970s.
waiting for the hot take. No Country for Old Men and Dances with Wolves. Pat, we're gonna move on to you because I want to go last, obviously, because I went first, like already way too many rounds for your next choices. And plus, just because you've given way too many controversial thoughts so far for you to not go next. So, Pat, what are your choices for round 3 for best and worst?
Well, let's hey, for the best, let's just talk about a contender, and that's going to be On the Waterfront.
Yes.
Yes.
Where I said An American in Paris beats out Brando and Streetcar. I think Brando a couple years later comes back with On the Waterfront, and this is frame, first starting frame to last ending frame, just a fantastic film. There's really nothing wrong in this story. It's about a former boxer who turns out that he took a dive for organized crime. It kind of ruined his life. Now organized crime is ruining his community. And he decides to step up and do something about it. And he could have been a contender. And that's the mantra throughout the whole film. And damn well, I believe he could have been a contender by the end of this film.
Could have been a contender.
Yeah.
I could have been somebody.
Yeah. Beats out all the competition. I don't think there was anything else on the list worth mentioning. I just might be hyped about the movie.
Yes.
No, it's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shouts to Malden, by the way, as well.
Yeah, right.
Malden gives such a good. This is my church. Oh.
Yes, absolutely. It's a would you say that's the movie when like shouty best picture performances were invented? Would you say it was this movie? Yes. We all know that Brando single-handedly changed the game with acting when it came to just like again bringing just like again like not realistic, but like he was definitely the transition from like more showy, stagey performers into like more like humanistic actors. Let's call it. I don't remember what the specific terminology was. Pat, you'd probably know that better than me. But yeah, any other add-ons to extra thoughts on the Waterfront?
Well, it's weird
Great
because
choice.
2 wins were from like tiny performances. Like
Yeah.
both of them are On the Waterfront and Godfather, where he's just kind of like doing the mumbles the whole way through. And I know that was his trademark, but he's not really doing the shoutskis. He's just like it's not your night,
mumbles.
Charlie. Like,
Oh man, I love it. And Pat, your choice for worst for this round.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and get it over with. It's a little year called 1941, where How Green It Was My Valley won. And, anyone that basically spends enough time with Citizen Kane understands that it is without doubt the best movie of all time. You just have to keep watching it until you understand that. And it's again, it goes to what I said earlier. It's basically some of the best movies ever made are when it takes sort of the myth of the industry and it wraps it in itself, and you could just really study and talk about that movie until you're blue in the face. And I think it has longevity, just in terms of just how impactful the movie was to the industry. It's basically, you can determine the Hollywood industry pre-Citizen Kane and post-Citizen Kane. Kane really brings all the elements of modern filmmaking, to the forefront, within the 2 hours that it is. So it's definitely, to me, obviously, I understand that it was sort of like kept out of theaters and not really widely seen. So maybe that had an impact on, and also Hearst's stranglehold on Hollywood. That probably had an impact on the Academy's decision. But I basically, I think it is Best Picture in 1941.
Yeah. I noticed how you didn't actually mention how Green Was My Valley was during there, which for anyone who actually wants to know what the plot of that movie is a John Ford movie about a small mining town that is struggling to survive during the Depression, in which the entire movie has voiceover going underneath it, which is the sole reason why I couldn't make it through that movie. I watched that movie and I was so disgusted and anger by the fact that I'm like, this fucking bullshit beat the greatest movie of all time for Best Picture. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm sorry. I know John Ford's a legendary director. The man won 4 Best Director Oscars. Not sure if all those were deserved, but like, come on, man. Man.
Dom, what I will say is the same thing is true about How Green My Valley is. You need to keep watching it until you understand it.
Yeah, but the only thing is I don't necessarily know if I will ever understand it, because I don't want to know, because it didn't fucking deserve Best Picture over Citizen Kane.
I need a soundboard of Dom going, I don't give a fuck.
Hey, this video's gonna be up on YouTube for a long time, great. So you'll have it. Eric Thorpe says he didn't mind Mank, and Gary Oldman is good in everything. And then Upside Dan says, Jonathan, did you like Mank? And then obviously in response on the waterfront, he says, I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum, which is what I am. About the movie, Mank. When did all the Mank hate start? Like, when did that start overall? Oh, man, guys, this has been...
I think it's valid.
This has been so much fun. This has been so much fun. So without further ado, I think that what will happen is after my choice this round, I think we'll all go around. Because with my choice, that brings us up to 15 movies for both the best and worst picture. So we'll go around. We'll just name off some of the other movies that we had nominated for the slate, and then we'll whittle away at 5 movies until we have our 10 for best and worst. Obviously, does that sound good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So my final choice. This is tough. I mean, it helps because you guys nailed like a lot of some of the ones that we did. Obviously, shout out to Casablanca. Obviously, a few others that almost made it. 12 Years a Slave. Obviously, Marty, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. A choice that I really desperately wanted to put in, Lawrence of Arabia. But this one's tough for me for best because it is literally between my 2 favorite movies of all time. And it's tricky. It's really, really tricky because I'm like, do I go with objectively the better one or do I go with the one that I like more? And it's tough.
That's
because
hard.
It could be both of them. It really, really, really is. But I'm going the first one. Fuck it. Yeah, Godfather. That's my choice for best.
Yep.
I'm going with the first one. It's tricky. Godfather 2 is the better movie. I will be that guy and say Godfather 2 is the better movie. It's darker. Yeah. It's more methodical. I think the difference between the 2 storylines, obviously, as kind of showing the rise of Vito, conjuncted with the fall of Michael. That movie would work no other way, and it just adds so many layers to this already impressive first outing. But The Godfather, oh man, like this, I'm not gonna be that asshole and say that this was like my awakening to cinema per se, but this was my awakening to cinema. Like,
At least he didn't say Fight Club.
No, I'm not gonna be that guy.
Oh Lord,
I am not that guy. No, like I watched this movie as a freshman in high school, and I could already tell that this was going to be special because obviously I'd read a bunch of like weird joke books like that kind of made fun of movies, kind of like pre-internet memes basically, but as books, like as Garfield joke books. I have a really weird history of like shit that I read when I was a kid, obviously, and I remember them having all these different jokes and quotes and references to movies, and The Godfather came up, obviously Scarface was one of them, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof was one of them, but I remember this was the first movie that I remember talking to my grandparents about, and this is their favorite movie. Right? And I watched a lot of movies with my grandparents. I'd watched a lot of good movies. I watched a lot of bad movies. Obviously, some of my fondest memories come from watching them. But I'll never forget when I asked my grandpa for the first time about The Godfather. And they said, yeah, it's very violent and all that. But they said, at the end of the day, it's about family. And it's just like, just watch it and you'll get it. And I watched it. And like, it's one of the few movies where it's an American epic. It's an American classic. It tells us
that word
again. It's that. There it is. There's that word again. Yes, and epic is a word that I absolutely will use to describe it because the story is absolutely epic in nature, and I relate to every single facet of it. Not the criminal aspect, obviously. Okay, not every Italian is automatically a gangster. All right, but I will say that just as far as like kind of the Shakespearean tragedy drama aspect of it. While still, like the fact that I can see a scene like Don Vito weeping over the death of his son, and it's both an incredible facet of the movie, and it also is it's just a dad weeping over the death of his firstborn son, which is just a tragedy in and of itself. Like, it's 3 hours long, and every single minute of it is worth it, I think. I think that it's grand, it's sweeping, it's operatic. The ending is awesome in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. The kind of the transition of having it be about the Don in the first half and then transitioning it into Michael. And by the time it ends, you realize that Michail is the one that's going to lead this family. And it's probably one of the only movies where the movie is about a fall from grace, but you're still with it the entire time. It's got one of the most, again, it's got some of the most iconic moments in movie history, right? This is, to me, still one of the most impressive things about The Sopranos is the fact that The Sopranos tells the story of the guys who grew up idolizing The Godfather. And that's part of what makes the deconstructional elements of The Sopranos work so well, is you see them constantly referencing it and riffing on it, but as a means of showing that, like, yeah, not everything is as great about this lifestyle, because The Godfather makes being a gangster look fucking like the greatest thing ever, which it clearly is not, obviously, to say the least. But I know that Citizen Kane obviously is probably objectively the greatest movie of all time, but this is my favorite movie of all time. And to me, this is the greatest movie of all time. It is the first Godfather movie. And hey, the highest grossing movie of 1972. So again, if that doesn't tell you that like great movies can actually make a lot of money as well. It was Coppola making his mark in the film industry based off the Mario Puzo book, which was a gigantic bestseller. And yeah, I'm not going to talk anymore about that because I'm already gushing enough. Because again, it's one of the only instances where I could say my favorite movie of all time actually got the top prize, which it rightfully deserved. And now for worst. This is tricky because pretty much almost every choice on my list has been picked, except for two. We talked about How Green Was My Valley. We talked about Shakespeare in Love. We talked about Green Book. We talked about The King's Speech. We talked about a lot of them. But so I was going to go with one of my other ones. I had a couple of other dishonorable mentions. Gandhi, Last Emperor, Kramer versus Kramer, Beautiful Mind, obviously to name the least. And I was going to go with Argo. But it's not the most egregious choice of the decade. I think there were some other past choices from the decade that were far worse. And Argo, while certainly not at all deserving of the top prize, it's not the most offensive. So that's why, in order to end this draft, I'm going with it. Pat mentioned it, but I'm the one that's going to talk about it. It's Forrest Gump. I'm sorry. This movie, I do still enjoy the movie, and I will still rewatch it. And I do think that Tom Hanks is good. But man, first off, just the dated 90s of it before we go anywhere else, right? The dated 90s of it and the fact that it is like so jovial and so carefree and so whimsy, almost to a fault, in a sense of where it kind of ages the movie, like so unnecessarily, beside like the vast amount of technical things about the movie that age it, namely the CG, and obviously the fact that it's so obvious that like the real life historical figures that are supposedly interacting with Tom Hanks are so obviously not at all saying the words that we're hearing them say. And that's just one of the many things that are distracting. But we talked a lot, obviously, about kind of the Weinstein buyouts, right, and some of the other choices that were nominated over some of these others that they won. And I get that a lot of people like Forrest Gump, and it's funny because I heard a lot people make a lot of jokes about the fact it's like, oh, people, now the internet has ruined everything. Forrest Gump, that was a nice movie. But I'm sorry, there is no world, there is no universe, no alternate universe, if we're bringing the comic books back into it, that in which you can convince me that Forrest Gump deserved Best Picture over Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption. Get the fuck out of here. Like, that is...
And 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
That is... And 4 Weddings and a Funeral and Quiz Show. But this is... That is ridiculous, obviously. No. So, Forrest Gump, that is my last choice for worst, obviously. And so, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up, obviously. So before we read off the final choices, before we whittle down what 5 movies we're going to eliminate from each round, we're going to go around in the circle, obviously, and I would say just name off briefly some of the other choices that you had, obviously, that weren't picked for best and worst. We'll start with Shawn right next to me. So what were some of the other movies that you had for best and worst up available?
For worst, well, you just took that one. I had Birdman, Out of Africa, Tom Jones, Grand Hotel, Gandhi, The Deer Hunter, Slumdog Millionaire.
All right. And some for the best that you had.
Oh, God. Lawrence of Arabia, The Silence of the Lambs, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Titanic, Terms of Endearment, It Happened One Night, You Can't Take It With You, The Apartment, Ben-Hur, Platoon, Marty, The Bridge Over the River Kwai, and The French Connection.
Wow. Okay.
That's 10?
You weren't kidding.
Yeah, right? God damn. That was a lot. All right.
It was really hard for me to do this,
I
guys.
can see that. I'm so happy that I had to here, though, for this. It shows that you're qualified. Brandon, what were some of your other choices that you had for worst and best?
Dom, are you writing those ones down? The one that Sean
Oh,
is
no,
writing?
those are just like other honorable mentions. Yeah.
Oh, honorable mentions before we
Yes.
actually get into our actual
Yes.
list?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, most of them, I will say that most of my worst ones have been chosen. One I did an honorable mention for is Gandhi. I haven't seen Gandhi, but I only chose that because it won over E.T. And I love E.T. So again, I can't say anything about Gandhi, but I know that a lot of people even say now it's like, oh, I think E.T. should have won. That's just general consensus. But yeah, there's no other honorable mentions until I actually go into the list.
Right. And then you got any dishonorable mentions for worse of any other bad movies that you didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, that's it. All the best ones I still have.
Okay,
people have not talked about yet.
Got it. Interesting. All right, got it. So Shawn, Lost in the Reel. Any other best or worst of movies you want to give a quick shout out to before we move on to the whittling down?
Yeah, I definitely for best I want to put in 12 Years a Slave now.
All right.
And then The Silence of the Lambs as well. I freaking love that movie. And then for worst, the only one that I'll throw in there as well is A Beautiful Mind. I know we've kind of, tippy-toed around that, but I think that movie, I don't know. I really don't like that movie.
And it won Best Picture over the first Lord of the Rings and Mulan version.
Exactly.
Park. That's ridiculous overall. Just Akiva Goldsman and the fact that he won that Oscar coming off of Batman and Robin is just what? Okay. And Pat, you got any other honorable mentions you want to throw in there for best and worst before we get?
All right, I'm gonna do the worst here, and I'm just gonna say, look at 1976 with Rocky. There's so many other movies that probably should have topped it. I love Sly Stallone. Sign me up for Escape Plan 1, 2, 3, 4, 50. I don't care.
Right?
Make as many as you want.
They made 3 of those.
But come on, sometimes Sly doesn't win out. I actually put Silence of the Lambs on the worst. I think JFK is a stellar film.
It's good.
Yeah, and I also feel Silence of the Lambs sort of dated 90s movie, so whatever. It's still good. But Manhunter for life, that's all I'm going to say about that. And then let's see, 1980, I didn't see Ordinary People, but I've seen The Elephant Man and Sign Me Up. Coal Miner's Daughter and Raging Bull is they're 2 other good movies, but Elephant Man is fantastic. And yeah, I think that's all the worst. For the best, I agree with Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai, anything David Lean for sure. Billy Wilder's The Apartment. If you want to go through a screenwriting clinic, just watch that movie and study it and understand what writing is. And then we're going to talk about It Happened One Night, something that we didn't mention, but one of the most fun romantic comedies you'll ever see. And of course, the last one that I'll end on is the movie Chicago in 2002. Just talk about storytelling and particularly editing. Quite possibly one of the best edited films.
Completely agree.
interesting.
Thank you. Everyone
Yes.
gives shit on Chicago.
I
love
love that
Chicago.
movie.
Yeah. I still have yet to see it, but from what I've heard, it's that movie does not deserve a lot of the hate that it gets overall. So,
Right.
No way.
Weird.
people,
Yeah, just razzle dazzle.
yeah, absolutely. So just a few of the comments overall. Again, thank you to the chat. Like, I don't know who brought these guys, but goddamn, this is one of the most active chats that we've had in a while, obviously. Man of movies, Forrest Gump is superior and has a best picture award. Oh, okay. All right. Just, okay.
I'm with you, Dan.
He's gonna be that
I'm
guy.
with you.
He's gonna be that guy. Crystal
with
Parker,
you.
Shawshank Redemption is superior for sure. Eric Thorpe brings up The Lion King. Again, that was before that. There was a precedent because Beauty and the Beast had been nominated 3 years earlier for Best Picture, so there was a precedent overall. Upside Dan says, "Oh, and Moonlight has the award to prove it too," which is true. I love the chat. I could read the chat for days. Obviously, Rhapsody Reviews just checked in saying, "Hey, hey." Hey to you as well. So, people, so just to recap, just to do a quick recap of round 3, obviously with the draft. So for round 3, the choices were Shawn with Casablanca, Brandon with American Beauty, Shawn Lost on the Reel with No Country for Old Men, Pat with On the Waterfront, and myself with The Godfather. And for worst, we had Shawn with The English Patient, Brandon with Annie Hall, Shawn Lost on the Reel with Dances with Wolves, Pat with How Green Was My Valley, and myself with Forrest Gump. So, gentlemen, we're about to begin. So, the final processing. So, we have 15 movies in each round for a total of 30, but we're going to whittle them down to 20. We have to eliminate 5 movies from each round, from each sect, in order to come up with our 10 best and worst. So, the choices are, so do you guys want to do best or worst first?
Oh, okay. I thought we were doing something totally different. I thought we were going to go back and do the ones that we still had in our top 10. These were just the honorable mentions.
No.
Okay.
So
Well, then,
these
real
are the
quick.
movies that have been selected. Yes.
Real quick, I have something to throw in then.
Okay.
These are sort of for best because for the worst, like they're not really bad movies. So like I chose Parasite because of 1917. Parasite's a great movie, so that's not going to count. No Country for Old Men, only because I like There Will Be Blood be better. Again, No Country for Old Men, great movie. So that's not really the worst. And then I have Chicago. Again, haven't seen it yet, but because I love Gangs of New York, Two Towers, and I actually was watching Chicago as a kid, and then my parents turned it off. They're like, fuck this, we're not watching it. So I actually still haven't seen it to this day.
It's
man.
good. So good.
Man. Yeah. Oh, man.
But then for the best, one of my all-time favorite movies is The Sound of Music. So I'm going to give some love to that, The Sound of Music.
Brandon, okay.
One of my all-time favorites is also Forrest Gump. So how dare you?
Man. Man, I was waiting. I knew there was going to be at least one. There's always one person on every panel that I'm on.
Yeah. I mean, I love Pulp Fiction, and I really do enjoy Shawshank, but I love Forrest Gump. I really do. Godfather Part 2. And I also love Titanic. Sorry.
I knew it. I was waiting. I'm like, okay, if there's gonna be one person that does it, it is Brandon. It's that Celine. It's that Celine Dion connection. It works for everyone.
One take, baby. One take. And James Cameron's Canadian too.
And yeah, that is true. That is true. All right, so gentlemen, in order to do a recap, do you guys want to eliminate 5 from the worst or 5 from the best first for our selections?
Let's end with the best. Oh, yeah, worst first, because let's end with the best. End on a high
All
note.
right, so the 15 choices that we have selected for the worst of category. These are all 15 movies that I think we can all safely agree in some capacity or another, despite our own personal objections and loves of certain of these movies. I think it's safe to say a lot of these movies did not deserve at all the top prize. So the 15 choices are Gone with the Wind, The Artist, The Shape of Water,
For sure.
Green Book, Crash, Driving Miss Daisy, The King's Speech, All About Eve, The Hurt Locker, Shakespeare in Love, The English Patient, Annie Hall, Dances with Wolves, How Green Was My Valley, and Forrest Gump. So, right off the bat, if I could throw in one, I'm going to vote, and I'm sorry to do this, Shawn, I'm going to vote to knock out The Hurt Locker.
I knew you would.
Only because I do actually, as much as I love Inglourious Basterds, and as much as a tough year as that was, I do still think that it did deserve it. Absolutely. I still think that just when it came to a filmmaking standpoint, kind of the on-the-ground, like kind of documentary-esque approach that it brought to that style of war filmmaking, it completely changed the way to me that war stories were told and kind of really brought in the modern-day sensibilities, kind of continuing off of everything that Ridley Scott did with Black Hawk Down. So that's why I vote to knock Hurt Locker out of the worst of category.
Fair enough.
I agree.
Yeah, I would say that Bigelow makes great movies. if you haven't seen Detroit, watch Detroit.
Yes.
It's,
I love
really
Detroit.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I kind of agree with your lifeline there, Dom.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. All
I
right,
say
so
we cut that one.
Yeah, all right. So Hurt Locker's out, obviously. So who's next? Who else wants to vote on cutting something of the remaining
think-
choices?
Should cut Forrest Gump.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're
I
gonna
think
vote cut Forrest Gump?
Forrest Gump too.
Really? Sean, Pat,
Yeah.
anything to weigh in there?
Cut it.
I think Forrest Gump remains, but if I'm outvoted, I'm
Yeah, if we're
outvoted.
outvoted, I'm with Pat, but I think we're outvoted.
So we have a
Oh,
tie.
3-2.
So we have a tie. We have a tie. So 2-2. Ooh, am I the tiebreaker here?
2-2.
I'm sorry. I'm sticking by my guns. I'm saying Forrest Gump stays in. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Forrest
brutal.
Gump stays
That's
in. I said
brutal.
I was the one who nominated. How could I not stick by my own nomination for worst? Obviously, so Forrest Gump stays in. All right. Who? Anyone else want to bring up anything else to cut?
Take out Annie Hall. That's just my Star Wars fandom.
take out Annie Hall.
Yeah.
And I
didn't want to say it, but only because you haven't seen it. So I'm like, I don't know.
I probably
that
could.
counts.
I probably would love it, but I'm only choosing that because of cultural significance. So,
All right, so
again, I
that's
probably
2
would
out.
love that movie.
All right, so that's 2 out. Oh man, rest of these are some real stinkers, obviously.
Well, I'd say
real
I vote
stinkers.
All About Eve, even
You
though
vote
I
All About
agree with
Eve
everything
out.
Pat said.
Got
I
it.
think that, I agree Sunset Boulevard, but All About Eve shouldn't really be on this list. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, we should support Godzilla just as much as Kong.
All right, so we're all in favor. Cut All About Eve next.
Yeah.
All right, All About Eve is
Um,
out. So 2 more choices to be cut, and this is tough because we're really getting down to the wire because all of these movies to me did
Wait,
not
wait,
deserve it.
List off what remains again, so that
So the
we,
12 movies that we have left: Gone with the Wind, The Artist, The Shape of Water, Green Book, Crash, Driving Miss Daisy, The King's Speech, Shakespeare in Love, The English Patient, Dances with Wolves, How Green Was My Valley, and Forrest Gump.
how can you pick Forrest? How can you not pick Forrest Gump out of that list?
I know. I don't get it either.
Yes, but it's like, okay, you gotta. I'm gonna pull the Trump versus Hillary argument. It's the lesser of two evils. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I still think Forrest Gump, out of all of those,
man.
is not. There's 10 worse films in that list.
that
than
is
Forrest
true.
Gump.
I hate to say it, but that is true. I would watch Forrest Gump before. Oh man, I can't believe I'm doing this, but Forrest Gump I would watch before all of those other movies.
Yeah.
Oh,
There you go.
Dom's taking the
all
better
right,
of two
yeah,
evils.
I got. Unfortunately, I got to do that. I got to be that guy in the sense. Forrest Gump is out, so we have 1 more left to throw in there to get rid
Gone
of.
with the Wind. I haven't seen it, but Gone with the Wind.
I think we should take.
Or is the cultural significance?
Yeah,
and
and does
whole,
the cultural significance ruin that? Is the question.
Yeah.
Sean,
I mean, I
anything
haven't
to weigh in
seen it,
there?
but I would go Gone with the Wind because it is so iconic and so famous. And sure, it's problematic nowadays. I get that, but it was the time that it was made. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say about Gone with the Wind is I don't think it's a popcorn flick. It's one of those things where you have to really study it and watch it and understand it and really look at its impact on society. And so, I think it is a big movie. It's one of the highest grossing of all time. It, does tell Scarlett O'Hara's story, decently well. It could have been 8 hours and it could have been still watchable. So Gone with the Wind is, definitely a significant movie in movie history. I think you just have to really study it and understand it and not watch it for just entertainment. You can't just pop up some popcorn and be like, yeah, this is all great and, cool
It's
and
quite
everything.
literally a facet of film history more than like a popcorn munching movie.
It's like go read John Ridley's editorial, watch 12 Years a Slave and Gone with the Wind in the same rainy day. Just learn a lot about Hollywood too, and just how it basically, it's one of those things. Like Gone with the Wind is I would say a good movie, but it's also at the same time, it's worth questioning.
Got it. Interesting. So, are we all in favor? We're cutting Gone with the Wind as just
Yes.
for its role in film history more than its watchability. All right. So,
Completely.
we have it. So, we have our 10 we have our 10 films. So, I'm going to read them off real quick, people. Officially, as is drafted by the Oscars panel that you see here, the 10 worst movies to have ever won the Best Picture prize. How Green Was My Valley for movies released in 1941. Dances with Wolves for movies released in 1990. The English Patient for movies released in 1996. Shakespeare in Love. Shakespeare in Love for movies released in 1998. The King's Speech for movies released in 2010. Driving Miss Daisy for movies released in 1989. Crash for movies released in 2005. Green Book for movies released in 2018. The Shape of Water for movies released in 2017. And The Artist for movies released in 2011. I think that's a pretty solid lineup overall there. Now for best. Oh, man. This is going to be tricky. So for best, we have, these are the selections as picked. In the Heat of the Night, Schindler's List, Braveheart, Parasite, Moonlight, Amadeus, The Best Years of Our Lives, An American in Paris, Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, Gladiator, Casablanca, American Beauty, No Country for Old Men, On the Waterfront, and The Godfather. So, who's going to go first as far as cutting?
I'm just going to say one thing. Can we use this movie quote to decide this from Clue? They're all the best movies.
Yeah.
Or does that not work?
Unfortunately, it doesn't work in this instance. We do have to cut 5, unfortunately. So who's going to be the brave soul? Who's going to do it first? Come on, people. We're almost at 2 hours on this podcast. This is like the longest podcast that I feel like a lot of us have done.
Let's cut Amadeus.
Oh no, Amadeus.
No.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to do the 3-2 outvote for now, obviously. I'm still voting to keep Amadeus in. I'll fight tooth and nail for that movie. That movie's incredible. That movie's incredible, obviously. Sorry to keep it one-sided there.
American in Paris.
You say American in Paris.
I haven't seen it, but that's why. It's like someone has to say something, so I'm going with that one.
Yeah.
Oof.
You heard it was about dancing, and you're.
Yeah.
Hey, I love Sound of Music. That's my favorite. One of my favorite movies of all
man.
time. So.
This is tough. I almost don't want to cut anything and literally just keep them all.
No,
Man. Okay, you know what? I hate to do this because this has happened twice to Brendan. But I'm going I'm going American Beauty, only just because of not just because of the age elements, but also because this is 1999 we're talking about, which is like one of the best years for movies ever, and like there are 15 other movies that you could pick that could all just like you could easily do it being John Malkovich or in Talented Mr. Ripley or what's it called, or Pat's favorite, The Cider House Rules, or The Insider, or The Sixth Sense, or Magnolia,
or Office Space.
Yeah, Office Space. The 1999 is an incredible year for movies. The Matrix, Eyes Wide Shut. The list goes on and on and on. And for that reason, that's why I vote to cut American Beauty as the first victim.
I second that nomination.
All right. Got it. So, American Beauty. Sorry, Brandon, I feel bad.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, American Beauty.
As long as one of my choices makes it. As long as you guys don't cut all my choices.
Don't worry. We won't
What were
do
your
that.
other ones?
I won't do that. He had Gladiator.
Amadeus.
I know for a fact he had Gladiator and Braveheart there, and I'm going to struggle to keep those. And I'm going to struggle to keep those in. It's Gladiator and Braveheart are his other two choices.
You know, Gladiator, Braveheart. I think those movies really stand out to me. I think Lord of the Rings has got to go because it's fantasy, and I think the period pieces win out in terms of
as far as
those
the epics
movies.
go. We're gonna table that for now, but here's the thing. I'm kind of siding with Pat on this one. Only, trust me, you'll never see a bigger Lord of the Rings fan than me. You will never see a bigger Lord of the Rings fan than me. But, and I hate to do this because of the caveat of it kind of being an award for the whole trilogy as opposed to just being for that one film, because as much as we love Return of the King and as much as an epic as it is, it does still ride off the coattails of the first two. That's the only reason that I give it to that. I still love that movie as much as everyone else, but I'm going to put a pin in that for now. Oh, man. Oh, God, this is tough. Oh, shit, this is tough. As far as the classics that we have in there go.
Yeah, that's good. My shit's going, I bet.
Well, no, actually, I was actually going to say, and I hated to say this, but I was going to bring up In the Heat of the Night, perhaps?
Oh, well, that wasn't mine, but I'm hurt.
Like I said, this is tough, guys. This was going to be tough no matter what. These are some of the best movies of all time, like, ever made here. So, anyone, like, any objections? Come on, like, we're taking arguments now. We got to do it. One of them had to be cut.
Yeah, I say cut one of those.
Oh. So it's between Return of the King or In the Heat of the Night, or do they both go?
In the Heat of the Night goes.
So we have 1,
In the Heat of the Night goes.
2. So obviously Sean and Pat are against.
Yeah.
I'm
pretty firm on this, but I think
I'm
it's up to
being
Dom.
illogical. I know that. Like, I know I eventually have to vote no. I understand this, but not yet.
If I'm going to be the deciding vote, I'm just going to make it easier on everyone because if I have to pick one class, I don't want to cut any of these classics. But I'm going to say In the Heat of the Night. Unfortunately, gets cut. I'll be the asshole in this scenario.
Yeah, I will say that it doesn't get as much props nowadays, and people should go back and watch In the Heat of the Night. And let's say that if we're going for a pure YouTubers talking about In the Heat of the Night, I doubt it. It's a very rare classic.
I love to see that. Just YouTubers talking about In the Heat of the Night.
Let's bring it back. Jump on your channel and talk about it this week. Go ahead.
I love it.
But it's a fantastic film, but it's kind of a very quiet classic right now. I don't think people are necessarily watching it as much as they should.
Got it. All right. So that's 2 off. We got to knock off 3 more. Oh,
Can you name them again?
Yeah, let's name them again.
All right, so the 13 that we have left: Schindler's List, Braveheart, Parasite, Moonlight, Amadeus, Best Years of Our Lives, American in Paris, Return of the King, Gladiator, Casablanca, No Country for Old Men, On the Waterfront, and Godfather.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Really?
That was my pick, but
that was your choice.
Yeah. I mean, the list is
You're
amazing.
Paul Haggising it.
Good. I love but I am rooting so hard for Lord of the Rings to stay in right now.
Me too.
No, you're self-choicing it.
For Return of the King.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I personally can agree with that. Like, just like my moral right to core, and I love Return of the King, but I can't justify cutting No Country for Return of the King. I can't do it. I can't.
We'll talk.
I'll put it this way: I'll cut Amadeus before I cut No Country for Old Men.
We'll talk about Lord of the Rings later. We'll talk about Lord of the Rings later. We're talking about No Country for Old Men. I say, well, I only chose it because There Will Be Blood is just like one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
That's why.
True.
Oh man.
So Dom says no on No Country.
I say no on No Country for Old Men. I say keep it.
So let's put thumbs up or thumbs down.
All right.
Let's just see.
Thumbs up
for keeping it, then thumbs down for getting rid of it.
All right, it's got to be up.
All right, yeah. So No Country for Old Men stays. Oh my God!
All right,
not easy.
I'm going to bring it back to the table as someone who was defending it before. Let's just do it right now and just do it really quickly while I say it. Sorry, Pat. An American in Paris. I'm sorry.
Only because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, sorry.
I would keep it in, but I'm sorry, Pat. I haven't seen it.
It's 11. It'll be 11 for me.
Listen, watch an American Paris, and I'll be happy.
I wanted to keep as many classics in as I possibly could. I really tried. I didn't want this to be as recency bias filled as the worst of was, but all right.
It's a non-traditional best movie, and I think it's fantastic. So, but I can understand it not being on the final list.
All right, so this is where it gets tough. The final 2. So here's the thing. If we keep No Country, so I'm about to propose a bold choice, but I will slash Amadeus because I think that out of the rest of these movies, it's the one that even though we'll say a couple other people don't agree with me on, if we also take off Return of the King. That's my only offer.
You know what?
I'll slash Amadeus if we take off Return of the King.
I'll sacrifice Gladiator if we keep Lord of the Rings.
Okay. So you'll sacrifice Gladiator.
I'll sacrifice one of my own to keep Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
This is a very interesting way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
How many are left? We got to get rid of 2.
We got 12, so we got to get rid of 2.
Amadeus
and Gladiator.
So why don't we say the 2 that we truly want to get rid of?
Okay.
Each of us, then we'll see if that means anything.
List it off again. And Gladiator was one of my choices.
So the 12 movies we have left: Schindler's List, Braveheart, Parasite, Moonlight, Amadeus, The Best Years of Our Lives, Return of the King, Gladiator, Casablanca, No Country for Old Men, On the Waterfront, The Godfather. I'm going to start off my 2 choices right off the bat, and I hate to say it because they're the 2 epic choices, but I go Return of the King and Gladiator. Those are the 2 that I vote to take off. But that's just me, and I know I'm going to get outvoted on that.
Braveheart and Return of the King.
Braveheart, Return of the King.
Sorry.
Well, like I haven't seen Best Years of Our Lives, and I haven't seen. Oh, there was another older one.
Amadeus. That's or Casablanca. Oh no, on the waterfront.
No, I've seen Casablanca, On the Waterfront. I haven't seen On the Waterfront, and I haven't seen Best Years of Our Lives. So I'll go with those two. But like again, I'm not really helping on that. You know what I mean?
Best Years of Our Lives. Like I think it's a great movie, but I personally think it's a little bit dated. And then also Lord of the Rings, I think is definitely one that I would kick off.
Okay, and Sean,
I can't even believe that. Gonna have
I can't believe that either.
Amadeus and The Best Years of Our Lives.
okay, so I think it's safe. So you pretty much unilaterally.
So
Amadeus
Best Years
goes.
and Lord of the Rings.
Best Years and Lord of the Rings are the two that go.
Yep.
All right.
Based on votes.
All right, based on votes. So in that case, Return of the King and Best Years of Our Lives are out. So the 10 movies that we have for the best of the Best Picture slate: Schindler's List, Braveheart, Parasite, Moonlight, Amadeus, Gladiator, Casablanca, No Country for Old Men, On the Waterfront, and The Godfather. People, that was
Good list.
the best and worst Oscars draft. We were here for 2 hours and 9 minutes, and it was worth every single minute. This was excellent. That's like 6 episodes of like a Netflix show in comparison. As far as YouTube comparisons, as far as time spans and attention span, and I just first and foremost have to say thank you to each and every single member of the chat that tuned in for all 2 hours and 9 minutes of it. Shout outs to Eric Thorpe Reviews, The Upside Dan, Crystal Parker, just to say the least. There are so many people that commented on this throughout. Man of Movies, as I'm scrolling back, Rhapsody Reviews. So many people. Thank you to Luke, who pretty much tuned out like early on in the night. But thank you to all of you guys that tuned in consistently throughout the night. This was excellent. I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time, and I could not have asked for a better panel of Oscar caliber people. As far as I'm concerned, we are the fucking Academy. Fuck the actual Academy. You know? And also, real quick,
do you think this is as crazy as their decision making?
I think it's slightly more rational minded than their decision making. You know, considering that we actually consider other things like, you know, what's it called, historical film context, you know, and also personal enjoyment, but also because I like to think that we have better taste overall than like the combined Academy. I know that's given us like a lot of extra credit, but
Well, the good news is we're probably a little bit more diverse than the actual Academy too. So.
Jeez.
Oh man, Spike Lee's gonna catch us. Better run.
Yeah, I do like how it's been said more than once. Like, I haven't seen it, so that's why we should get rid of it.
That's the Academy.
That's a valid choice.
That is the Academy. So
Never
you know what?
really
That's
such
I guess
as
we
always,
are no
baby.
better than the Academy overall. So once again, thank you guys to every one of you guys for coming in. This again was absolutely incredible. I could not have done this on my own, to say the least. This is one of the most fun panels that I think I've just one of the most fun things that I think I've ever done on this channel in general. So go around, plug yourselves, and also do this very unique thing that I feel like could only be done on this episode, which is where plug your guys, let the people on the internet know where they can find you guys, and also slate who your prediction is for Best Picture win on Sunday. So starting with Sean of Math Teacher Movies, thank you once again for bringing your expertise and bravado. Where can the good people find you online, and who do you think is winning Best Picture on Sunday?
They can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Math Teacher Movies, where I do Monologue Mondays, What the Oscars Got Wrong Wednesdays, and Final Shot Fridays. I review movies of old and new, and also go over TV shows of old and new. And I believe that there's going to be a major upset, and Nomadland. What? They're the front runner? Nomadland's the front runner? Okay, the Nomadland. I mean, shit, I thought it was going to be an upset, but fine, yeah. No, I think Nomadland's going to take it. I think it's the writing's on the wall too well. Maybe an upset, but maybe not.
Oh man, absolutely, that was great. That was better than the Moonlight La La Land screw up overall. Thank you for that, Brandon, the one and only Brandocritic from Toronto, from Ontario. Fuck, I did it again. Oh my god, I did it again. I just can't. Yeah, cut that out, Brandon. Where can the good people find you on the interwebs, and what do you think is winning Best Picture on Sunday?
You can find me in Vancouver on the totally different coast of the country. we Americans know a map and we know how to use it.
Indeed.
Only of our own country. But anyways.
Yeah.
Love you guys. And by the way, Sean, that was fucking hilarious. I was almost in tears there. It's like, we're more diverse. Okay, all right. Okay. Anyways, yes, my name is Brandon, aka the Brandocritic, and it's my job to point you guys in the direction of movies worth checking out. So you guys can find me on YouTube. Now you can find my main content there, as well as Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. So I'm doing the newest movie reviews. I just did The Mitchells versus the Machines, the new Netflix animated movie today. And tomorrow I'm doing Stowaway, the new Netflix movie. A review for that will be out tomorrow. Every second week, I have a live stream called The Brando Show, where it's just a live stream where you can have people on. I know Talkin TV podcast and Shawn at Math Teacher Movies has been on there as well. And it's just a fun hangout where everyone can just talk about movies in the chat or talk about anything, really. And we're all just having a good time. So hope to see you guys there. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. That was a lot of fun talking with all of you about Oscars. So I'm really excited. But I think Nomadland wins just because it's all politics. I think it's definitely it's locked in already.
Yeah, most definitely. It's pretty much won unanimously across the board, like every award ceremony with the exception of SAG, which it wasn't eligible for. So yeah.
Right.
Other Shawn, Lost in the Reel, first time on the channel, definitely made an impact. I definitely think that of all the episodes to start on, this was one of the best overall. So where can the good people find you on the interwebs, and what do you think is winning Best Picture on Sunday?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and obviously YouTube. I do a lot of what Brandon does, cover new movies and television shows on my channel as well. And I kind of really like to focus on hidden gems, movies that people have never heard about or are coming out soon. So that's kind of my cup of tea. But for who's going to win, it's going to be Nomadland, but I wish it was Promising Young Woman.
Yes. Oh man, thank God. Oh, I'm so happy that I'm not the only one that thinks that. Obviously, Pat, the one and only. Again, you're my professor for life. I know that you're going to be hosting Talking Thrones with me starting in 2 weeks. Where can the good people find you on the interwebs, and what do you think is winning Best Picture on Sunday?
So yeah, you could, like Dom has just said, you'll find me more on the Talkin TV channel. We're going to do a nice casual backtrack into Game of Thrones. Basically, I believe in the phrase never go back. But I'm going against that, and I'm being dragged back. They're pulling me back into Game of Thrones. So we'll see.
You were out.
Yeah, we'll see what my thoughts are on the second time around, and I'm probably going to be a little more scrupulous on those decisions. Eventually, I'll post something on my Instagram at Patrick W. Huber. Always bet on Citizen Kane, so Mank all the way. And then last, what I will say is thank you for inviting me on to do this, Dom. Like going through the list of best pictures and just reading all the classic movies that have existed since the Academy Awards has been going on, and realizing that even though I've been watching a lot of these classic films since I fell in love with cinema, there's still a lot of classic films that I haven't gotten to, and even some of the more modern ones like Moonlight. So just go back and watch some more Best Picture nominees. Understand the history of filmmaking and movies, and really relish those classics. I know we got so many streaming services and YouTube, and it takes so much time away from our ability to sit down for 2-3 hours and watch these movies. But these classic films are awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And where can they follow your social media accounts in order to find more of your wise sage advice?
I don't know if you're going to find it. It's just that Instagram at Patrick W. Huber, and maybe I'll post one day.
Yes, you say Mank all the way, and I agree with that 110%. Again, no, seriously, thanks to all you guys. This is the most amount of fun. Again, in an era where it feels like every single time I go live, I'm talking about something related to Marvel. It was just so nice to actually be able to talk about some actual goddamn movies that only a few of them, in which of all the things that they had in common, none of them were superhero movies. So that was just nice and refreshing to talk about as far as a change. Brad, what were you going to say?
I think someone once said Black Panther. That's
someone once
what
said Black Panther.
You said Marvel. I'm like, oh yeah, crap. I'm a human being talking about movies on the internet, and we didn't talk about Marvel. It's a nice change of pace.
It was such a nice change of pace.
Can you remind me why Ed Norton was not nominated for Best Actor for The Hulk?
Because he sucks. No, I haven't seen that one yet.
It didn't
I agree.
qualify.
I agree. No, he is great.
It went to Ruffalo instead.
Yeah, it went to Ruffalo, but he is great in that movie, honestly. And that Incredible Hulk movie is just such an underrated movie in general. If we could just let the superhero stink slide back in there for a second. But seriously, thanks to all of you guys. This was honestly the most amount of fun that I have had, kind of. I mean, I love every single minute that I get to go live with podcasting, but this was a really special thing. I've really, really been wanting to do this for a while, and you guys just made it every bit as special as I thought it was going to be. So with that being said, people, what do you think is going to win Best Picture on Sunday? What are some of your favorite and least favorite Best Picture nominees? I will be posting the selections that we have picked for worst and best Picture winners on Instagram later on this week and over the weekend. So be sure to tune in and check those out. And or if you missed this stream, or just go back and rewatch this stream. It was long, but it was a lot of fun overall. And you can find myself at Movie Nerd Reviews on Facebook and Instagram for my personals. And of course, you can find me on this channel almost every night now at the Talkin TV channel. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you guys get notified every time we put up new content. Leave a comment once again. And follow us on our social medias, Facebook and Instagram, at Talkin TV and at Talkin TV Podcast, all one word. That way you guys can stay up to date and notified on all of the stuff that we've got coming out. We've got, obviously, our Oscars post-show coming out this Sunday. We've got Mortal Kombat coming this weekend. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on there. I know a lot of people are excited about that. We're finally releasing our face-off first-time watch-along for what feels like, after having been so delayed from about a month ago, obviously, at the end of this month next week, and then we're ending it. We're kicking it off with a little something new that we'll reveal on those weekends and when we finally wrap up with the Falcon and Winter Soldier. But thanks everyone to tune in. Thank you once again for making the first ever Talkin TV Oscars draft a thing. Hopefully we'll be able to come up with something just as bonkers and just as crazy as next year. So from myself, from the Shawns, from Brandon, from Pat, as always, you guys know the sign off. 12 seasons in a short film, and watch more fucking movies. We'll see you guys next time.
Watch the painted